Yeah, a lot of people got a kick in the pants yesterday. I think there was a lot of that going on around the NFL yesterday. Dolphins, personal protector, Chiefs in general, the Bills, the Chargers. A lot of kicks to the pants yesterday. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. We open up the phone lines the day after a Chiefs game, not a Chiefs victory today. As surprising as we've had in a long time for the Chiefs in a loss, not just like, the Titans game last year was surprising in how bad it was, but a game in which it felt as mismatched going into it as this one did, and coming out of it, it felt as mismatched as you thought going into the game. But all that matters at the end is the points on the scoreboard. And the Colts winning 20-17, the Chiefs losing, and just an absolute giveaway in that. And in a conference where we've talked about the smallest of margins could be the difference between going to Buffalo or, I don't know, maybe going to Miami or playing in Kansas City or going to a different city, that is one that you hope week 16, 17, and 18 it is not still haunting you and hanging over your head like a really bad late-night decision. You hope that's not the case. But as it stands right now, this is a team that just simply let one get away, and a giveaway in that one. 913-381-0810 is the phone number. 913-912-4810 is the text line. We'll hear from Field Yates coming up at noon. Andy Reid will talk today. We'll hear from him around noon 30. Mick Shaffer at 1 o'clock. Learn funniest and best from the weekend, and we will get into all of that. Jason Anderson, Josh Brisco, and Beards. Josh, I know that you are really excited to finally get your thoughts on this game that you've been waiting. It's all been just built up, just really just bubbling, and it's about to just overflow because all you want to do is just get your thoughts on this game and have somebody hear it, not just walk around your house by yourself, just like you're in a room with pads and a straitjacket, just wanting to talk.
It really is kind of. I realized this at the end of the post-game show last night.
Oh, you had a post-game show.
I know, and some people don't know about that, but it's a nice show we do after games. I really did feel significantly better by the end of the show, but not zero. I don't feel zero bad. I felt less bad by the end of the show, and not zero. And frankly, if I had to guess, I would assume that over the course of these 4 hours, I'm going to relive some things that I thought maybe I had fully processed from yesterday, and now I'm thinking about it again, and now I'm trending in the wrong direction. I don't know what the bell curve is, but somewhere we are trending back up again, man, because I hate being right and then being wrong, and I feel like we were right about the Colts. The Colts stink. This is a stinky football team. I don't want to watch them anymore.
They're not good.
They're not good. And the Chiefs were less good yesterday.
Right about the matchup, wrong about the win and loss. Right about that.
Right about the Colts and wrong about the Chiefs. That pisses me off.
That's true, too. It's a weird feeling because the last time the Chiefs lost a game, it was a different show that we were having on the air. And even those 4 hours felt therapeutic. Difference being, there was not in 6 days, They get a chance to correct this. And they've got 14 more games to go where they can correct this. That was the end of the line. It was over. It was immediate. It was fast and stark, and it was shocking. And it felt like it came out of nowhere, and your season is absolutely over. Season is not over for the Chiefs. There is an odd feeling that I had after that game, which was frustration of the loss, but not like a feeling of impending doom or, oh my gosh, this team is just fatally flawed. And there are so many, like last year after the Bills and Titans game, those were losses in which you're going, this team is broken. It is a broken team. A lot of people were making fun of, myself included, all of the narrative in the offseason after the Bucs game of did the Bucs figure out the Chiefs offense? It was like, yeah, they figured it out. Have a bad offensive line versus one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. That's how you figure it out. And then after the Titans game, we're going, did the NFL figure out the Chiefs offense? Because that was a real concern about what was happening with this team. Why were they broken? Did the Bucs break them? The Chiefs have broken plenty of teams in their time with Patrick Mahomes, but did the Chiefs get broken? Like, that was a different feeling last year after those losses because you just didn't know where to go from there. coming out of this game, I think there are single game issues, and I think there are concerns long term. I think there's single game and long term takeaways from the game yesterday in the loss. Let's go through them. Just sort of generally touch on them, and then we'll get some phone calls, and we can get more specific as the show goes on and as the week goes on, etc.
Let's go item by item through all the Chiefs' mistakes. We'll start taking your calls as soon as we're done on Friday. We'll open the phones back up one more time because we'll be done listing all the ways the Chiefs handed a football game to a really, really useless football team.
We will take your phone calls on a special Sports Saturday edition of The Zone.
Yep.
Saturday, 8 o'clock. Join us, and once we are done, okay, let's go through it. Play number 1. There we go. I mean, here's the question we were asked last night on Sunday Sound Off. And
how do you do it? How'd you get here tonight?
What happened? I did start off by saying, Mick, I thought about it, but I decided to show up, unlike the Chiefs. So the question was, what unit is more to blame, offense or special teams? And my answer was yes. It's more to blame. Yes. And I had a different answer than Ken Swanson. My answer was special teams, I felt like was more to blame. And I don't think there's a wrong answer with either, unless somebody disagrees with me and says it's the wrong answer, then that's perfectly fine. I don't care. But I thought Kent made really good points as to why he said the offense. My view on the special teams was the muff punt was 7 points for the Colts.
Yes.
The missed field goal is 3. The missed extra point is 1. The fake field goal was because of no faith in your kicker. A 41-yard attempt should be kind of a gimme in the NFL. But you were risking 4th and what? 7? 4th and 8? Rather than, or maybe it was 4th and 11.
11. It was 4th and 11 on the fake punt or fake field goal.
You were attempting a fake on 4th and 11 rather than a 41-yard attempt. That is zero faith in your kicker. Zero. That's special teams. Missing the field goal, special teams. Setting up poor field position constantly throughout the game is special teams. Letting the ball drop at the 15 and it rolls back to the 1. And then the Chiefs go 3 and out. That's special teams. Chris Lamons grabbing the damn ball at the 11.
It's very strange.
When it was clearly going to keep rolling. And then the Colts get out to the 42. And guess what punt that was? Down to the 1 where Sky Moore didn't catch it. I don't know what happens if Lamons, their special teams ace, lets the ball bounce and roll. Maybe it stops and goes sideways and it's at the 9. Okay, maybe it's the same exact thing. Maybe inertia continues to take over and it continues to roll down towards the goal line, and Lamons and whoever else was down there with him, I don't remember who was next to him, but either one of them stopped the ball before it goes in the end zone. And maybe at that point the Chiefs get a quick 3 and out, and they get the ball maybe at midfield, instead of the field being flipped because the Colts weren't backed up against their own end zone. They were at the 11. Not as bad as being at the 1. Those 10 yards are massive. So that was absurd. Isaiah Pacheco bringing the ball out, slipping and falling. He was 2 yards deep in the end zone. He slips and falls and fumbles at the 10. The Chiefs end up starting from the 12. Their final play of that drive was at the 24. And they attempted a fake field goal. 13 yards if you just take a knee. Or don't even catch the ball. Now, I'm not saying then everything would happen and therefore the final play from the 24 would be the final play from the 11. All of that stuff. No, I'm not. It's the principle and the general decision-making. Even when Pacheco had to bring the ball out at the 1 yard line, then he runs straight left and gets tackled at the 14. There were so many mistakes that just accumulated and mounted to where those hidden yards constantly that are talked about. The special, I think special teams are a part of it. And I know Chiefs coaches always say all 3 phases, offense, defense, and special teams. Yeah, you need it. You need to have a good punter. You need to have a good field goal kicker. But that was as bad of a special teams game that wasn't specific to one thing that you could say sort of, had a big part in costing you the game. Like 95, it was Lynn Elliott missing field goals. All right, you know exactly what that was. It was that guy. This was Lamons and Pacheco and Sky Moore and Armadillo, as Andy Reid called him last week.
Hey, Tommy Townsend missed his throw. Tommy Townsend had the best game on special teams of anybody. He had Noah Gray. That call was the call, and we could dissect that
tackled
for a while.
I don't think Noah Gray is close to the first down, even if Tommy Townsend makes the throw.
Fair enough. Tommy Townsend at least had a clear path to just dump it up over to 83, and that sailed on him.
Yeah.
I think if you want to do this is not real EPA. It is a what is it when it's just a story that you can draw back to? It's just sort of a
flashback.
No, it's the opposite of being analytical. In this case, it's going to be both. It's going to be an anecdotal analytics. This is anecdotal analytics. Thank you. I knew it was going to work. I just couldn't find it.
Okay.
My anecdotal analytic from yesterday is that the Arizona Cardinals turf cost the Chiefs 6 points.
Yeah.
I was saying 7. Some people correctly pointed out on Twitter, well, hey, they went for 2 that one time and got it. So it could have been 8 or 15 if they would have missed that 2-point conversion, which I kind of think they still might have.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Me too.
But special teams in this game, being forced to either agree with you or Kent is a really tough place to put me, but I'm going to side with you on this one.
Take that, Kent, in your face, punk!
You expect more of the Chiefs' offense, right? The Chiefs' offense is more concerning.
That was his point, is that this is a Chiefs' offense that should put up more than 17 points.
And it should. That part is right. He's right there. But the Chiefs' special teams just needed to be merely bad. If they were merely bad, just a shanked field goal, an extra point, and couldn't trust their kicker. Well, if Sky Moore just doesn't muff that opening punt, probably win this game. You're really talking about special teams directly, my anecdotal analytics, directly costing the Chiefs 13 points yesterday. Yeah. 13 points.
And
maybe more.
Yeah. And he went with the offense because his point being, look, no matter field position, this offense is supposed to be much better than what it showed in that game, scoring only 17 points, scoring 3 points in the second half. That's been familiar. But for whatever reason, only having now I know that they had a missed field goal and a fake field goal attempt, all of that stuff, but they managed to put 3 points on the board in the second half. And his point also in that the touchdown drives were a 35-yard touchdown drive and a 21-yard touchdown drive. So the offense, 2 touchdowns were short field set up by the defense. And as he was saying that, like my thought goes to my mind, and I'm like, man, that was a very 90s Chiefs game where the offense just wasn't good enough. But the defense kept giving them opportunity after opportunity and getting stop after stop and 4th down attempt. And Nick Bolton meeting Jonathan Taylor at the line of scrimmage and pushing him back.
With his hands on the ball and pushed him back.
My goodness.
This is a workout you do. I've never seen it be so practically used right there. The leverage was incredible.
It's like this push press, and it's like literally used to stop Jonathan Taylor. And they gave opportunity after opportunity, the sack, the strip, the fumble. You get the ball there. The other sack, strip, fumble, you get the ball there. And yet the offense only capitalized when it was a short field, and they went 2 of 4 in the red zone, which then builds off of the 1 of 3 in the red zone against the Chargers. We had a lot of talk about the red zone against the Cardinals. They were 6 of 6 in the red zone. They're 3 of 7 since. And maybe the Cardinals are just ass. And the Chargers and the Colts, I thought the Colts were too. And the Chargers with all their injuries.
I think the Colts kind of are, which is what's so frustrating about this football game.
But we also thought the Chargers were better than losing 30-10 or whatever it was, 38-10 to the Jags.
Super banged up, and the Jags might be good. But,
I agree both of those things.
But also, you're right.
Chargers were missing, 5 All-Pros in the second half of that game?
And a rib from another one.
And the Jags might actually have a decent coach, which means that the talent that they've been acquiring might actually be put to good use with a decent coach. So those things certainly are there.
I'm going to live vicariously through the Jags, I think. I think they're going to be my adoptive up-and-coming team that I can just root for on the side, you know?
Hell no. No way. But, like, the offense obviously has to be better. The special teams was god-awful. And I am just waiting for the day when we can finally retire the Dave Tobe is the best special teams coach in America, in the NFL. Best special teams coach in the NFL. He should be a head coach. He's that good at special teams. Best special teams coach. We've heard it for how long? And, Corey and I talked about it for the last 2 years. Like, hey, when are we going to stop saying this around the NFL? That he's because when I think of, like, great special teams, go to the college route. What's a team that pops up immediately when you say, that team has amazing special teams? Immediately it's in Manhattan. Kansas State, amazing special teams. Apparently, no matter the coach, they're going to get block punts, they're going to get punt returns and kick returns. It's what they do. K-State, if you go there, coach there, you damn sure better be good at special teams. Chris Kleiman, you're the special teams coach. You're the head coach, but you're also the special teams coach. Where's the punt, the kick, the big plays that are made in special teams by Dave Toub that then would be worth the risk of a penalty and setting your team back inside the 10 or just simply turning the ball over? I continue with my mantra of the Chiefs' best punt returner is no punt returner. Get them the hell out of there. Let the ball bounce to the 1. That's fine. I'd rather both.
And they did.
I'd rather both possessions start at the 1 yard line for the Chiefs, rather than one of them start at the 3 for the Colts and the 1 yard line for the Chiefs. I'd rather both of them start at the 1. Therefore, you didn't just give 7 to Indianapolis. Just get away from it. Don't have a punt returner. The punt return's only job is to make sure that Patrick Mahomes touches the ball. That's their only job. Maybe they get a touchdown, but I will guarantee the turnovers and the penalties happen at a tenfold rate than a punt return touchdown. Your job, make sure 15 comes out on the field. That's it. That's your job. And so Sky Moore then getting, I'm annoyed that Sky Moore couldn't get up there and catch the ball. That's fine, whatever. Bounces back to the 1. But I'd rather him do that than go up there and try to grab the ball at the 15, fumble it again. You know what? At that point, I'm going to get away with it. I need 15 on the field, even if they end up going 3 and out. That's the best punt returner. Get the hell off the field.
You're going to have to let me loop around again on this one because I'm going to have to run a little distance to make a circle around point on a day that I do not want to be the guy that's out here defending the Chiefs' special teams. Because I think they are the biggest reason they lost this game, and I think you can say that with your entire chest. Lots of people you can blame, nobody more than the entirety of the special teams. I think the Dave Toub thing, and this was as of November last year, so I don't know what ended up happening last year. The Chiefs had 8 top 10 finishes in DVOA over 9 seasons on special teams over the course of Dave Toub's time here. Mm-hmm. I think that he is almost always turning units into top, I think 4 to 8 is kind of the hot spot. That's off the top of my head. I do not think that always translates to how we see special teams as being impactful, which is, can you create the big plays? The bread and butter of the Dave Toub special teams typically is great coverage, because that's real. Like, the gunners that have been on this team in years past, great coverage and then sound returning. Well, yesterday, that second part wasn't there, and then you see how quickly that Jenga tower falls. Matt Derrick made this point last night on postgame, and we can pepper him with it on Friday again this week, but he pointed out, this special teams unit, how much did we talk about bleeping special teams in the roster cutdowns? We went deep on this roster, and they got younger, and they got faster, and this is a time for Dave Toub to be figuring it out. Like, this can't happen. Special teams can never cost you a football game. That's never excusable. And I do wonder what it looks like now to where it is at the end of the year, and how much of this... I don't know what Dave Toub did wrong on Sky Moore's hands. I don't think that one's on him. I think the fake field goal is either on Toub or Andy Reid, whoever ordered the code red there. Andy Reid always says he's got 51% of the vote, so he can take 51% of the blame if he wants. I think that the lack of trust in the kicker and then seeing all of that fall apart the way that it did, all relevant. And ultimately, you have an entire unit that just has to wear it. It is going to be a fascinating Thursday this week when Dave Toub, Steve Spagnuolo, and Eric Bieniemy all take the podium for the first time after this game, because those 3 dudes are going to have 3 very differing experiences as the reporters ask them a whole slew of questions, where Eric Bieniemy is going to be walking up answering questions about a halftime conversation. Dave Toub is going to be walking up to talk about the worst special teams game probably in his time as a special teams coordinator. And Steve Spagnuolo could walk out there and just rip his shirt off and say, "Witness me," and we all would. And so, you know what, Coach? You were in that one. Yeah. What a weird bleeping game.
Maybe one does not exist, but in Dave Toub's time, I'd like him to find a consistent punt returner that is just somebody you can trust. Again, maybe one does not exist in the NFL. Maybe every single team is going, every time the punt's in the air, going, okay, don't try, catch the ball. Okay, caught the ball, good. Now let's get the offense out there. Maybe that is every single, but that's been the feeling for 4 years now with McCole Hardman and now Sky Moore. it doesn't seem to really. Even Tyreek Hill, I've always been nervous when Tyreek Hill's back there catching the ball as well, because as we saw in the divisional round game, he's not the surest, but when he's got the ball in his hands, he's amazing. But again, maybe one doesn't exist. But who is the best at just catching a punt? I don't care if it's Andrew Wiley. If Andrew Wiley's the best punt catcher on the team, then number 77 is my punt returner.
Feels like Michael Burton could do it. I don't know why. I just kind of feel like there's nothing he can't do.
Well, you know what the Chiefs would have after he touched the ball? A first down.
1 yard. 1 yard and enough to move the chains?
1 yard and a first down.
Yeah.
Beard says let's go to break, so let's bring in Scott real quick before we go to break.
Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, he's been waiting for a while.
Just running through the sign.
913-338. Take that, Jersey. I'm not stopping, okay? I'm not Alex Gordon, all right? I'm rolling right through this. Scott.
Unfortunately, unlike Alex Gordon, we're not going to be out early.
No, we will not. Well done. I feel like that should have been a throw to break right there, but it's not.
Well, you're right. It should have been.
No, it's not.
I bet Beards agrees.
Scott, go right ahead. What's on your mind leading us off today on this Monday loss after the Colts game? What's up, Scott?
Well, Jason, I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on TV, but I believe one of the key tenets of the Hippocratic Oath is do no harm.
First, do no harm.
Yeah, and that's what the special teams for the Chiefs should be when you have Patrick bleeping Mahomes as your quarterback. Like you said, just fair catch the ball. Pacheco, let the ball bounce through the end zone. Go down it. Let's take it at the 25 rather than the 14. I mean, how many times do we see them take it from 6 yards deep and then we get a 10-yard holding penalty and we're setting up shop at the 7? It's like, and as you said, I think one of the reasons that Sky Moore dropped the first punt is because they had a return on. And he never signaled for a fair catch. I went back and watched it. Now, maybe there was an angle I didn't see, and he did it early.
No.
I went back and watched it. Just fair catch the ball. I mean, part of it is game management. Like, the Chiefs just absolutely stuck it to Matt Ryan on the first 3 and out. You have all the momentum in the world. The Colts don't believe in themselves. They have the Chiefs coming into town. Fair catch the ball and let Mahomes go down and score and basically – put them in a situation where the Colts have 1 foot in the grave and one on a banana peel. Right there, it's 5 minutes into the game. But no, you give this team life by doing stupid crap. It's just, I don't know. I would assume, and you guys are way more insiders than I am, I would assume that Tobe was the one that okayed Amendola. Now, I'm sure Andy Reid and Beach okayed it, but with as much freedom and as much power as they give Tobe on the roster, he was the one that picked that kicker, and I believe that Chase McLaughlin, the kicker that was 2 for 2 and 2 for 2 on extra points yesterday for the Colts, was one of the guys that they brought in at the same time they brought in Amendola. I mean, Dave Tobe has to go. He has been a problem for a long time, and it's unfortunate that he's one of Andy's best friends, and it's never going to happen. But his ego cost the Chiefs yards, and yesterday it cost them a game. And that's just. When you have Alex Smith as your quarterback, who's a fine quarterback, you do need to take more chances, get big returns, get big plays in the special teams. You have maybe the greatest quarterback, or he's on trajectory to be the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. Just get him the damn ball back. That's all I got. Thank
Scott,
you,
appreciate the phone call, man. 913-381-0810.
Rack him.
I love the Hippocratic Oath liner there. That is the exact way that I view punt returns.
Bars.
First, do no harm. First, do no harm. Get out of the way. And it's a good point. I'll wait for the all-22 to come out, but I looked for it too. I didn't see a fair catch signal by Sky Moore. So maybe that was, all right, I need to get this and get rolling here, or this thing's hanging up in the air. Should I have already called a fair catch? I can't do it now because it's too late. I don't want to get hit. Like, I don't know what was going on through in Sky Moore's mind. And again, when the all-22 comes out, maybe he did call for a fair catch, and then just something happened, or it's the roof and non-roof and all of that stuff that was being talked about.
On the kicker point, it was Cameron Dicker, Elliott Fry, Chase McLaughlin, who Scott mentioned, Cody Parkey, and Tristan Vizcaino were the other members of the 6-man kicker derby, as it was reported that the Chiefs had, that Matt Amendola ultimately was the victor for. I will say this. I wasn't trying to do it with Eric behind me, but I did it anyway. I will say this. I would be knocked right out of my shoes if Dave Toub did not make the final call on which kicker they were going to sign.
He was the only one that made the call. It's Dave. Who do you want? Okay, great. Let's go.
Right. Yeah. Let's bring in these, and maybe Brett Veach and company picked the 6 to bring in. I'm sure Toub had an impact on that also.
I would hope he would have a list of players.
And I also don't know. Again, I don't know how much you can put on an evaluator for a kicker making or missing kicks. For kicker number 40 in the NFL. Yeah. They found Harrison Butker on a practice squad, and he's been, an all-pro. So I don't know exactly how much of that you can levy against Dave Toub, but I will say that I think ultimately in that personnel decision, that had to come down to Toub, and they had 6 dudes in the facilities to have a kicker derby, and they went with Amendola, as I believe his name's supposed to be pronounced, and I just don't think we're going to have to say it much longer anyway.
Yeah. I mean, look, he did his job against the Chargers. He had to do his job against the Chargers, and they won. Didn't do his job against the Colts. I guess so is the life of bad kickers in the NFL. And you miss Harrison Butker, and you appreciate Harrison Butker. The Chiefs very easily could be 3-0 right now if Butker did not sprain his ankle against the Cardinals. They could also be 1-2 right now if Amendola didn't at least have one game when he was an actual professional kicker. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. 913-381-0810.
They were the only Missouri team to have kicker issues, right? This weekend?
All right, so we're going to take a timeout, and I'm going to punch Josh in the break. When we come back, he'll be, I don't know if he'll be talking or not. He may be trying to pick up some chiclets out of his mouth. More so next.
Want to see more of The Zone? The Zone with Jason Anderson.
What do you think of Greinke with the Chiefs? You like the deal, you like the signing, and what he can bring.
I
can't
think,
get football out of his mind.
I think personally,
what did I say?
I think that Greinke should pitch for the Royals, even though the Chiefs have a hole in their secondary. I think we should let him stay there.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, 913-381-810, getting your phone calls, 913-912-4810, the text line as well. Text says, in a game with 22 players on the field that can get a life-changing injury at any moment, I want to know what word a grown-ass man could say to another man worthy of a 15-yard penalty. A flag. Text says, Chris Jones, ? There's the game. And then a couple of other texts talking about the offenses to blame. Another text wondering, is there something deeper going on with Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy? And just pointing, sort of anecdotal and analytical, but more anecdotal, saying, seem to think whenever they show Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy on the sideline, they don't look like they're singing Kumbaya together. They look like there's frustration, but that happens all the time in football games. But I don't know that they get along. I've talked about that throughout the offseason. When it was Eric Bieniemy, Matt Nagy, and Kafka and that stuff, I don't think Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy really get along. But if it was to the point to where they couldn't work together, Eric Bieniemy would not be the offensive coordinator on this team. So I will say this, I think they get along as professionals. I don't think they're hanging out outside of the facility and going to movies together and texting each other like, hey, man, are you watching House of the Dragon? I don't think that's happening. I think they're professionals. 913-381-810. Let's go to Amos next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Amos, what's on your mind, man? Go right ahead.
I didn't really get to watch the game because I live in Ohio, so I'm out here in orbit. But I feel your guys' pain. I'm with you guys. If the ball's inside the 10, leave it alone. Punt return or kickoff. I don't know why. It's 2022 and we still got to teach players that. It's kind of weird. And one other thing too that you guys mentioned too. I wish this whole Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid crap would stop. As a long life Chiefs fan, why can't we just as you have power, and I know Andy Reid has a big name and everything, and he's won a Super Bowl. Andy Reid should just coach the whole team. Enough with this whole relay play crap off. I'm honestly getting tired of it too. It's like a messenger, Let Bieniemy be the damn offensive coordinator, and then if he hangs himself, he hangs himself. But let them work together and figure out their own identity, and not the horse whisperer of damn Andy Reid whispering in a damn play and then playing this whole secret crap bullshit with the press that he always plays with you guys in Missouri. It's so annoying and so amateur. I just get so sick of listening to this crap all the time when I hear you guys in your press conferences on the media talking all this stuff, and he just plays this tongue-in-cheek bull.
All right, there we go. Okay, very good.
First one, you gotta let him hang around. See, timing on that one was great, though. You nailed that one. You nailed that one. That was
913-381-810.
Some good points in there, I think.
Absolutely.
You just get to stay on longer if you keep it PG. That's just sort of how radio works.
Text says, this moron thinks Dave is the problem, relying on a kicker, 5 exclamation points and an LOL. Yeah, he's the coach of the special teams, and the special teams were bad. I'd say he's part of the problem there. 5 exclamation point guy. Let's go to Todd next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Todd, what's on your mind, man? Go right ahead, sir, and keep it PG.
Oh, absolutely.
Or at least PG-13.
Good morning to you guys. I hope your days are going better.
You know what? I think it's going to be fine. The Chiefs are going to be fine.
My eyebrows just got singed off, but other than that, I'm good.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We just got a 15-yard penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct because of that word. So.
Well, the sun did come up this morning.
That's right.
So we're in the right direction anyway.
That's right.
No, I tried to catch I can't catch everything as far as post game and comments from NFL Network and all the other pundits on TV. But one thing I haven't heard anybody talk about, and I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it, and I'll listen off the air. It seems that we played extremely poorly for a team that had 10 days to prepare for their next game. Now, the Chargers looked bad yesterday. We looked bad yesterday. Could there be a residual effect from the two teams just knocking each other's heads off so much on that Thursday night game that it took its toll on yesterday's game for both teams? That's just my thought. I'll listen off the air, and thank you for your time.
Todd, I appreciate the phone call, man. 913-381-0810. They both played like crap yesterday. That's for sure. I think the Chiefs the mistakes continued to compile, and they couldn't ever really right the ship to make a big play themselves to go, okay, we're good now. We're good. I mean, they were up 14-10, and they had an opportunity at 1st and goal at the 4-yard line? 1st and goal at the 4? You score there, you break the backs of the Colts. Instead, you end up kicking a field goal. Now, I thought it was pass interference on the defense on 3rd and 2 to the pass to Kelsey when his back was turned and he was still pushing Kelsey's shoulders and Kelsey couldn't reach down for it. I would have liked to see Kelsey fall backwards because that would have absolutely been a 100%, 100 out of 100. It would have thrown the flag on that one. It would have been 1st to goal at the 1. Maybe things are different. But still, you had opportunities to really, break their backs at different times. But I think the mistakes continued to compile. And I don't know if it has anything to do with playing last Thursday against the Chargers. I do know there's numbers on Andy Reid after a Thursday night game and whether he can't cover the spread or even just being okay in wins and losses, things like that. So it did not deter me from thinking the Chiefs would be perfectly fine in this game and laying the points. But maybe there is something to that, Andy Reid coming off a Thursday night game in a mini bye as opposed to a full bye. I don't know. I don't think there should be you get a couple days off and now you show up lethargic.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the only argument there would be that the Colts adjusted better than the Chiefs did, or that they weren't preparing for what they actually were expected to see from the Colts, which I guess makes sense because Gus Bradley was kind of talking his mess this week leading up to it about he was going to just run it the same way he always had, and then he did show the Chiefs some different things. The offense was constipated, everything that they did looked difficult, so. Maybe there's something to that, but here's the truth of it all. And I told you last week that if we came back around on Monday and the Chiefs didn't control this game, I would start with the negative. We're 45 minutes in, and all we've done is talk bleep, rightfully so. I think you can blame just about anybody you want over the course of the next 4 hours until you try to blame Steve Spagnuolo or the defense, and then I'll jump in front of that moving train and say, no, don't you dare. No, don't you dare. The last thing you saw was them giving up that last drive, obviously extended by the penalty on Chris Jones. I'm sure we'll dissect that more over the course of the show as well.
Yeah.
But you could blame pretty much anybody who had any hand in the offense or the special teams, and I think you'd be at least partially justified. Is it all Dave Tobe's fault that the special teams were bad? No. He wasn't back there fielding the punts.
No.
Is it partially his fault that his entire unit was a mess? Absolutely. He'll tell you that on Thursday. Was it all Orlando Brown's fault for the half a dozen bad reps you saw? No, he did not single-handedly submarine this offense, but he needs to wear some of the blame, as does Patrick Mahomes, as does the entire offensive line, as does the running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, 7 carries, 0 yards, and a touchdown. What a fantasy day. You can find, from Andy Reid to Andrew Wiley, and that's unfair because he's actually performed pretty well for who he is, but from Andy Reid to Andrew Wiley and everybody in between, you can place blame anywhere you want on offense and special teams, which is really, really frustrating because the Chiefs' defense looked so much better than I would have ever dreamt they could have looked in week 3 of this season with all these young guys missing 3 starters. That is totally overshadowed, totally squandered because the Chiefs totally squandered it.
And when I talk about short-term individual game versus long-term concerns or long-term takeaways, if the defense keeps playing like that, and I don't really have much faith in the Colts offense anyway, but even if that's the case, I mean, again, they held the Chargers to 17 points until they were up by 10, and we saw what happened there, whether they got pick 6 or whatever. If the Chiefs defense continues to play like this, the Chiefs have a chance to win the Super Bowl. That's the bigger picture, is the youth in Game 3 finally bit the Chiefs. But it wasn't youth in Game 3 of McDuffie and Watson and Cook and Karlaftis. It was Sky Moore and Pacheco and some others as well. Like, it's not just on them, but there were mistakes that were made. And the offensive line has just not been good.
Trey Smith got beat a couple of times. He got beat backed up against the one. I mean, you can find whatever the opposite of a gold star is, a poop emoji. You can find a little poop emoji for just about everybody on this team.
That is exactly right, yes. The Colts
Except for defense.
The Colts pressured Mahomes 20 times, and Edwards-Helaire, McKinnon, and Pacheco combined for 17 carries and 29 yards.
Mahomes was holding onto the ball for a long time. He'll talk about that. We haven't gotten all 22 yet. Broadcast feed's hard to judge this on. I wonder if we're going to see in the all 22 that these dudes won't really get open, because that's sort of my fear. So he's holding onto the ball because nobody's opening up downfield. I just think you're going to be able to spread the blame around wherever you want today.
I think you will. One of my early concerns was, and I know we got a break. I'm sorry, Beards, but this is Josh's fault.
Nope, I was done.
Josh's fault. He sparked something in my mind that I was going to talk about. We haven't talked about it yet.
Sometimes I just spark something. People have to figure out what that means for them.
Now, take it with a grain of salt that Edwards-Helaire is on my fantasy team. So I might have been specifically looking at him, but the second play of the game, I wrote it down in the notes, the second play of the game ended up being an incomplete pass where Mahomes ended up scrambling up the middle and was tackled from behind. He got like 3 yards. That was the second play of the game. It was a play action to Edwards-Helaire, who was then going into the right flat. Nobody went with him. He's standing all alone, nobody within 15 yards of him. Last week, that was a throw to Edwards-Helaire or a throw to Jerick McKinnon. Mind you, I was watching it specifically because he's on my fantasy team, but it doesn't mean that it takes away from the fact that Mahomes held the ball, then tried to run up the middle, then was tackled for 3 yards, as opposed to that's a first down. A little swing pass, here it is. The linebacker doesn't go with him. Boom, Edwards-Helaire swing pass in the flat. Let's move the chains. Let's go. We're rolling now on offense. We've seen that so often from Mahomes that when he didn't do that and he held the ball and then started running around, there was a teeny bit of concern of like, okay, I hope we don't have Mahomes. I'm not just going to take what's there and I'm going to look for the big play Mahomes today. I think they'll still win and probably get some of those big plays. But I want him just to continue to be consistent and say, boom, here's 7 yards, take it. Here's 9 yards, take it. Here's 5 yards, take it. Never go broke making a profit, as they say. And maybe that was a sign of things to come, of just like, I'm going to turn down the 8 yards because I'm going to get something bigger down the field. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You have no problem giving the credit pie when Marcus Kemp can't catch a bleeping football.
Whoa.
Sorry about that. When Marcus
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, quick segment here, then we'll get to your phone calls at the top of the hour, 913-381-810. Back to those that are on hold. Get some texts as well that are coming in, 913-381-810. We haven't talked nearly enough about how good the defense was, but it's tough to talk about the positives when they lose a game.
I'm in a bad mood again.
Maybe this was the punch to the gut, humbling that you can't just go out there and go through the motions even against a bad team and go and win. Or there are some real long-term concerns, which I do think there's an element of that, which we can get into.
As long as they can put away whoever they have next week.
It's fine.
I haven't looked at the schedule yet.
That offense can't score anyway.
Raiders probably.
That offense can't score either. So
Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes prime time next week. The over-under might be 14. Teams can't buy a bucket.
Yeah, both of them need wide receivers apparently.
Look how they massacred my boy.
Kansas City's home. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
John Elway will not play. You're going to have to trade him well, he could still draft you and then trade you.
Nay.
Well, you don't have a choice. If he drafts you, then he can trade you.
It was a John Elway.
I got it.
Damn it. I just went right on past it.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, 913-3810810. Get to your phone calls, 913-3810810.
You know what's bad when during the commercial break, you and I keep doing show and then come back just to the sound of us growling exhales.
Is that bad? I don't know.
I think it is, man. Sometimes I'll part the curtain. Sometimes during the break, we just sit here and are doing our own thing, trying to, get everything sort of calibrated from one segment to the next. Sometimes we're chatting about nonsense, whatever else is going on. And sometimes, like this time, we spent the last 6 minutes just talking about things from Chiefs Colts that we're still mad about, that we haven't made it into the show in the first hour yet.
I know.
Because there's so much to choose from in terms of your horrible disappointments and letdowns. Ah!
You want to talk about the receivers then?
Sure. What are your thoughts on the receivers, Beards?
Well, I was going to say, we've got a Twitch comment here from VF is Epic. I just don't understand why none of our multitude of receivers seem to be able to catch consistently. It's like the Bucs Super Bowl all over again. Discuss.
Well, I mean, I don't.
Did you mean to say disgusting? Because that's
No.
Disgust.
Sure. Yes, that's what I meant.
DISCUSS or DISGUST? Which one?
I'll let you pick whichever. It's a choose your own adventure book of discussion.
Thank you. It's funny, the show we were doing at the break there was about that, Mahomes may have had a bad game, but he also was not helped out by receivers not really making plays for him. Like Travis Kelce, that's a ball that he catches, and he dropped it, and that was 4 more points on the board. And Mahomes is getting hit in his knees while he's throwing the ball on 3rd down and 10, and Justin Watson make the damn catch. I'm glad Justin Watson made the catch last week against the Chargers for the touchdown, but make the catch. That was 2 feet off the ground. And for whatever reason, you went with your hands like your right hand over. Try to catch it as if you were just running in stride to your right and the ball came to your chest, and you dropped the ball. Just catch the ball, Justin Watson. And that's a first down. It's like, wow, I can't believe Mahomes got it there.
Yes.
With the pressure he was under. And who knows, maybe you score. Maybe you don't go for a fake field goal there. Maybe you put 3 more points on the board. Maybe it's different. I don't know. Maybe.
McCole Hardman, by the way, 1 target, 1 reception, 2 yards.
Better stat line than Clyde's rushing yardage.
Yeah, that would be 8 touches.
I think I picked him to lead the team in yards this year for our over-unders.
Well, nobody else really covered themselves in glory, Beard. So it's not like you lost a ton of ground.
I would also say though that your guys' Edwards-Helaire under touchdowns are struggling right now.
All right, but my under yardage is looking pretty good.
That's true. The pace of the under is not working for you in the touchdowns.
Nope.
But we are maybe one decision away from Edwards-Helaire no longer getting goal line carries, and Pacheco not returning kicks, somebody else returning kicks, and Ronald Jones, Jet, and Edwards-Helaire, and inside the 10, it's Ronald Jones.
I'm ready to try.
Right now.
You ready to try?
Right now.
Hey, you want to keep 4 running backs on this roster? Activate them all if you want.
I don't need Pacheco on the roster.
Deactivate Matt Amendola. Just go no kicker. Let Justin Reid do it. It doesn't matter.
I don't need Pacheco. Somebody else can return kicks, and then Ronald Jones is the 3rd running back. And down inside the 10-yard line or 5-yard line, I'm giving it to Ronald Jones.
I'm not taking away Pacheco.
3 games for everybody to turn off of Pacheco?
No, that's just Jason. I'm not ready to put Isaiah Pacheco behind me.
What do you mean? But here's the thing. It's just Jason turn off to Pacheco. I've yet to be turned on to Pacheco.
Great point.
So I can't turn off Pacheco when I haven't been turned on like everybody else.
Jason's Isaiah Represto. And I am fully in on the Pacheco's experience.
Tracy next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Tracy, go right ahead. What's on your mind, sir?
Hey, thank you for taking my call this morning, and tell Mr. Brisco that I said hi. I met him at the casino the other day.
When Jason said Tracy, I said, I hope that's Tracy who I talked to at the casino. What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, buddy. Hey, I just have a quick comment, and then I have a question. My comment first is no one should really be surprised because Indianapolis Colts have always played Kansas City Chiefs tough. Go back and look in history at the playoff games that they played. I do believe, I don't have all the numbers right in front of me, but the Chiefs have lost to the Colts quite a bit. So I wasn't surprised about the loss yesterday. And there's enough reason to put blame on everybody. All right, so we've already covered all of that. This question is directly for Mr. Anderson, if you will answer it. Why does Andy Reid, Mr. Anderson, keep allowing Eric Bieniemy to be showed up on national TV? And just hear me out just for 1 second, my friend, because of the last 2 or 3 years in a row, Travis Kelce pushes EB on national TV. The whole world saw it. All right? The next 2 years, Patrick Mahomes and him have words. So to me, Eric Bieniemy is just a token. He is a token man, and everyone knows that Andy Reid calls the damn plays. Everyone in the world knows that. So why didn't Patrick Mahomes take his grievances out with the head coach? Because Eric Bieniemy has no say. And I'm getting sick and tired of Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Whenever they feel like showing his ass up on national TV, they can do that. And just let me just say this, and then I'm done. All right, when Marcus Peters did that shit on the airplane, we didn't see it, but his ass got cut 2 days later. He did get into a verbal argument with a position coach, and Andy Reid and Clark Hunt chose to cut him. Now, I know good and well you're not going to cut Pat Mahomes. But you know what? To me, Pat Mahomes might have peaked early, and because ask Dan Marino after he gets back to the Super Bowl again. Dan Marino played in this league for 15, 16, 17 years, and it's hard to climb that mountain. I'm under the impression that Mahomes, this is what you get when you pay one man $500 million. You cannot attract any other damn players. Thank you for taking my call, and usually I say this for Mr. Ren Petro, but I wanted to call in this morning. So thank you very much, my friend. I'll see you guys later.
Tracy, I appreciate the phone call, man. Boy, there's some passionate people today. You know what Chris Jones has done? Chris Jones is contagious. Whatever Chris Jones said to Matt Ryan is now spilling over into the callers because a couple of dump buttons that have taken place. There's a bull bleep. There's a just.
That's because he didn't think of the children yesterday.
That's probably right. Bull Shane and a regular Shane, all of those things. Here's my. Like the thought on EB and like showing him up on the sideline and why is Andy Reid letting that? Like I don't know what Andy Reid's going to be doing if like Mahomes and EB are, having a conversation like they were, and it looked like it was a more demonstrative conversation, right, between the two. I'm not sure what Andy Reid, other than stepping in and having Mahomes walk away, and then after the game, we'll hear from Andy Reid real quick here about that. What I would guess is that Eric Bieniemy is a passionate coach. I don't think Eric Bieniemy is an even-keeled during the game type coach. Maybe he is, and I'm just simply wrong. But I know he's passionate, and I know he will get after players, and the players are passionate too, and I think that can cause friction on the sideline, where Andy Reid is just sitting back, and we heard Kelsey, Jason, and Travis say, Andy Reid's not going to say anything to you, but he'll give you a look, and when he gives you the look, you know you messed up. Whereas Eric Bieniemy may not be doing that. I don't know. I'm not on the sideline, but I do know that those sort of issues or scenes have been with Eric Bieniemy. Doesn't mean that he's not good at his job. Doesn't mean that he's bad. Doesn't mean that the other players don't love him, because Travis Kelce 10 minutes later was over hugging Eric Bieniemy, and they were joking around, and they said after the game, it's all good, man. He's passionate. I'm passionate. We want to win. Kelce saying, Eric Bieniemy's my dude. I want to win. He wants to win. We're passionate. So I don't make too much of the Kelce one. Again, I don't think Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes really get along all that much. I think the hatchet job that was done over the summer was BS. I think that was just ridiculous. And I wonder if there's an element of how many times when people are in their work environment, you may vent at somebody near you about an issue that maybe you should be venting to the boss. So if you're like, you know what, I'm mad at, like for instance, with this show, if there's something going on or something, the amount of times that somebody would walk in and be mad at Shane, for something, and then Shane's like, "Hey, maybe
I'm just the offensive coordinator here.
Is that me? Right? Like, I wonder if there's like Mahomes is like yelling at Eric Bieniemy, but like also frustrated with Andy Reid of like, man, let me play. 2nd down and 20. There's 20-some-odd seconds left. Let me go. Let me play.
That we Reid and Mahomes both spoke on this after the game, and we can let them say their own piece in their own words, and we can get there. But one thing that Matt Derrick said on post-game last night, which does line up with something that Tracy said there, which is, this was not Eric Bieniemy's decision, but that is where Patrick Mahomes' ire ended up. Mm-hmm. I think Andy Reid walking over and then just being the kind of cool hand of, hey, man, let's just go out. Let's get out of here. My guess is that Andy Reid made the call. Eric Bieniemy told Patrick Mahomes the call, and then Mahomes responded to the voice that told him they were handing the ball off at the end of the half, and then Bieniemy was there defending a choice made by Andy Reid. Patrick Mahomes was defending his desire to continue playing football, and then you saw that walking off. If you just saw the Twitter reaction, you would have thought that Andy Reid had to jump in, like he was jogging in from the bullpen in a baseball fight to like hold them back. It's just not what happened. I mean, I think that largely because of the AFC Championship game and then all of the, as you may say, bullshit that kind of surrounded what the following months of that were.
Yeah,
I think maybe we're really got a magnifying glass out to see what those interactions are like, and there is something interesting there. This isn't me telling you that relationship is uninteresting. I am very intrigued by it. But you've heard stories from Travis Kelce. I talked to Jamal Charles last year, and he tried to get Eric Bieniemy fired within the first week of them being together. And then eventually he realized that Andy Reid was not going to do that. They figured it out, and now he and Eric Bieniemy stay in touch to this day, texting and whatnot. So I just think that this is not a surprising thing whenever you have some evidence as to who Eric Bieniemy is and how this stuff goes. I do think that Matt Nagy is here to be the next offensive coordinator. I do think that Eric Bieniemy still should have gotten the head coaching job by now. If he doesn't get one this offseason, I do wonder if he's going to go be a head coach somewhere or an offensive coordinator somewhere else with a defensive-minded head coach that lets him build his own offense. But I just think if they were about to come to blows on the sideline, it would have looked a lot different than that.
Yeah. Here's Andy Reid after the game. A couple of quick clips from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes about specifically this. Andy Reid weighing in on Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy in the scene before halftime.
No, there wasn't. I'm sure that's how it looked, but there really wasn't. I said he wanted to go for it. Obviously, no, not a Hail Mary, something else that we have in the plan. But I thought it was best not to do it. So he's a competitive kid, and he wants to, take advantage of every opportunity. I thought it was best just to let that ride there. But really, if you heard the words that were said, that wasn't. I don't know how it looked to you guys, but it wasn't a confrontation at all. That's not what it was.
It looked to me like two guys that were just as frustrated as the fans were. That's what it looked like.
Yeah, they were frustrated. Absolutely, they were frustrated. So were you. So were all of us. Everyone was frustrated then, no question.
The team was defense was frustrated. Offense was frustrated. The coaching staff was frustrated. Players were frustrated. Patrick Mahomes was frustrated. A lot of frustration going on. And then, you're near this guy, and I'm going to project my frustration on this one play call as if it's a big deal and it just lost us the game because we didn't throw the ball on 2nd down and 20 and we handed off. Here's Patrick Mahomes weighing in on whatever took place there between he and EB.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I wanted to go try to score. I mean, that's just who I am. We were in a tough situation. I believe it was 2nd or 3rd and 20 and something like that. And probably the smart decision was to just take it. We had got the ball at a half. Let's just go to halftime. But I'm always gonna be wanting to score. And I pretty much just said, let me have a chance at it. And then he was just like, let's get back in our locker room and we'll get something going for the next half. And I guess I don't know if that's an altercation, but that was the end of the conversation.
Was that specifically just the run call, or did you want to try to Hail Mary?
No, yeah, it was the run because I tried to go deep the first 2 times, and obviously they were in a deep coverage, and I was just all I said was I'm not going to turn it over. I'll get it out, try to get to the sideline and get us a chance to kick a field goal. But it's a tough situation. I'm on the field. I'm playing. I want to always try to go score. That's who I am. But that's their job, is to make sure they manage the game the right way. And we had multiple chances to win after that. We just got to be better in the second half.
And I understand where he's coming from in saying, on the running play, look, let me throw it. I'll get to the sideline. It's fine. I'll figure. I'm not going to turn the ball over. It's all good. You got to trust me on this. And I understand where Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy, the coaching staff, is coming from and saying, yeah, we passed it and we had a holding call. We had a holding call because our offensive line got beat again. The odds of us getting into field goal range, probably not great at this point. The odds of us getting into field goal range where our kicker will actually make it, probably not great at this point. Yeah, I'm not going to put you back there and have you get risk injury again on maybe a Hail Mary or maybe, not a literal Hail Mary, but a Hail Mary attempt to try to even get into field goal range.
A prayer and a play.
Yes, a prayer and a play, right. Yes, a bloop and a blast, as they say in baseball, like a prayer and then a kick. And no, I'm not going to do that. So I understand that aspect, and I'll play devil's advocate from Patrick Mahomes and saying, look, I always want to go down and score, and all I said was I'm not going to turn the ball over. I think what Mahomes is saying there is frustration is like, why don't you trust me that call the play and I'll do it? Devil's advocate is, last loss that you guys have suffered, at half they did trust you. And he didn't come through. And it cost the team 7 points or even 3 points. So, I mean, they did trust you in one of the biggest moments, and it didn't happen. This was one of those to where, could they trust you? Maybe, like if the offensive line was protecting better, throw the ball. Yeah, but it's also not trusting the 5 in front of you. It's not really not trusting you.
I'll be the Angels advocate.
Please.
They trusted Sky Moore again 45 seconds after he bleeped the bed. You've got to let Patrick Mahomes take his shots. But here's the real thing. From me, I don't think either Andy Reid or Patrick Mahomes sounds like a fool there. I certainly, you know what else is worth noting? Their stories line up. Yeah. They both came out and, I believe, told the truth in a tone that totally matches the level of intensity that there was there. They just talked about it in postgame. I am no Pollyanna on postgame press conferences. There's probably more stuff in every postgame press conference that I think you are being lied to or at least somewhat misled than you are actually getting the truth. And I think there is enough of the truth in those two clips to pretty much take it at face value. They disagreed on what to do at the end of the half. I think they disagreed about all sorts of stuff in the AFC Championship game. I am sure there were disagreements at halftime. This is a very intense game. This is another with people saying Chris Jones just can't talk there. He's been blasting his body into a bunch of 300-pounders who've been double-teaming him for 4 quarters. He gets Matt Ryan and ends the game, and he calls him washed or whatever. Who knows? Calls him bleeping washed. We don't know what he said, but I'm paraphrasing what I'm assuming it was.
He dropped an S-bomb. Let's be honest. That's the theme of the show.
That's probably right. And now you're throwing a flag on the dude who's been bashing his head through. He would have had a better physical day literally trying to run through Colts. Just horses trying to trample him. It would have felt about as good as his actual physical day did. And you're telling Eric Bieniemy and Patrick Mahomes that they, shouldn't have had that conversation until they got into the tunnel? That conversation started with Patrick Mahomes on the field. Yeah. It happened later in the game with him waving on a 4th down call. Let Patrick Mahomes be aggressive. Andy Reid has been too conservative as a head coach in a lot of places throughout his career. I'm sure it served him pretty well in plenty of spots. This is an okay balance to have. It doesn't mean that there's a dynasty forming a rift. The bigger problem is that the offense stunk and the special teams were giving up points. That is way more important to me than any of this stuff. And I honestly think the way that Mahomes and Reid talked about it there should hopefully help us get to that point.
And we haven't even talked about the non-timeout at the end of the game by Andy Reid. Let's go to John next up on Sports Radio 810. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to remind you. John, next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. John, thank you for holding, sir. What's on your mind? Go right ahead.
Yeah, okay, 45 minutes. Yeah, hey, guys, thanks for taking my call there. I think we're talking about why they lost yesterday, and I think we can point to a lot of different things, but let's just point to some things that are going to mean something, and I think that are going to be long-term. That showed up in the previous games, but we won, and that's the thing that I've always cautioned Chiefs fans to be, and playing the devil's advocate, as your guy just said there, is you can't put a win like they won on San Diego and say, man, we dominated, or we're on the road and we're doing well, because they didn't play well. They had a guy that almost ran 100 yards on us. Our defense didn't stop them, and there are things that happened yesterday that stick out. Can't be Chris Jones, no matter what it was said. It was the energy and the process that did it. Doesn't matter what was said. And we talk about giving the excuse away to what was visually done on the field with Mahomes and the enemy, but we know it's been done before. But we're like, well, it happens, but I don't know that it happens that prominent in the NFL. Number one, and number two, if we do, we don't see it. And so those are the things that I think are long term, which is when you can say about somebody's reputation, they never get accused of it, it's probably not that. But you get accused of it more and more, or see it more and more, or you hear about it more and more, it's probably true. So those are the things that I think are the issue, was that our defense cannot stop the run. Our pass rush yesterday, as I heard somebody say earlier, our defense looked good, but I think our pass rush was what looked good. But I think in part that was due to Ryan's age and health. I think that held him back. But the things that are long term are, I think there's a risk that is developing, and sure, everybody wants to win and everybody wants to do that, but they were both right. They could have both said, hey, the right thing is to go in and let's just go into halftime. But I think the right thing to do was to try it. I mean, when you got a Pat Mahomes, that's what you do, and you take your risk with that. But anyway, I'll get off the line and hear your response.
John, thank you for the phone call, man. I appreciate it. 913-381-0810. Yeah, I think there are long-term issues that we can look at and focus on coming out of this game that are certainly concerning for this team. I don't think anything defensively at this time is the long-term issue from that. I thought they played pretty damn well against Jonathan Taylor.
He had 3.4 yards per carry. His longest carry of the game was 13 yards. That came after the Chris Jones penalty on that last drive. Jonathan Taylor was a dude.
How many times did the Chiefs stop him on 3rd and short, 4th and short when the ball was given to Jonathan Taylor?
Not just his overall averages, but in those big moments, they were. I don't want to slander the Chiefs' run defense today. They've gotten a lot of flack when it didn't really matter very much over the last couple of years. In this case, it might have mattered in this game. They did what they needed to do. Fair note that Matt Ryan being old and immobile, it makes the pass rush look better. They're playing Tom Brady next week. I mean, you want to talk about old and not moving around very much? He'll get rid of the ball quicker, certainly. But you fire your shots wherever, but the defense does not deserve them today in any way, shape, or form, unless other than perhaps Chris Jones talking, which also I take issue with the idea of saying it doesn't matter what he said, because the penalty is literally for whatever it was that he said. So I think there's some. I think it does matter what was said, because that's what cost him 15.
But I think the overall point of the NFL has been emphasizing this for now a year and a half, or a full year last year, and then re-emphasizing it this offseason, saying, yes, we're going to be doing the same thing. The consistency is not there. What Chris Jones did happens 30 times a game.
Yeah, I just think it's weird to make excuses for the referees there.
I agree. I don't. It's not making an excuse for the referee. It's I'm both sidesing it. You don't make the call there because that happens 30 times a game. Right. That's not nearly egregious enough to bring it to a level of giving a team a new set of downs when they're punting the ball with 4:48 left to go in the game in a 4-point game. You don't do that. Nothing was said to the point. Chris Jones didn't follow him. He wasn't so demonstrative that his head was moving around. It was kind of staring. Matt Ryan was saying something, and then they both went their separate ways. And as they were going their separate ways, the flag flies. That happens 30 times a game. Look at every single pile when guys are getting up off the pile. It happens all the time. It's the consistency from the NFL to say, well, we're going to emphasize this, but we're going to do it sporadically. It's going to be like a random drug test.
We're going to emphasize it when quarterbacks are involved.
That's exactly right, yes. It's going to be a random...
Wasn't he talking smack when he got up originally to the other guy and then turned around and said something to Matt Ryan?
No, he came up off of Matt Ryan. I can't remember where the first words were thrown, the vile weapons that they are. Here, real quick on Jonathan Taylor.
Sticks and stones, all right? Officials, sticks and stones.
At the Chris Jones penalty, when they should have been getting off the field, Jonathan Taylor only had one carry after that, but it was the one carry for 13. So he had 20 carries for 58 yards up until Chris Jones and the pass rush should have ended the game there.
Mm-hmm.
That is
pretty good.
A monstrous effort against a running back that actually does deserve a little bit. 2.9 yards per carry, including some big short yardage stops.
Yeah. So the both sidesing it. I don't think
give the Chiefs defense credit.
I don't think it rose to the level of where you give them a new set of downs. Players should be aware that the NFL is doing this. It feels incredibly sporadic, like a random drug test of, hey, nobody do drugs because you never know if you're going to be the one that gets popped. So nobody taunt because you never know when the official's going to have that itchy hand to go and pull that flag out, and then also put the flag right back in when there's a face mask on Patrick Mahomes, and the same official that threw the flag on Chris Jones is the one that came over and said, no face mask, only a hold. Okay. Be consistent on that. Either anytime there's chatter, you're throwing the flag, or they're grown-ass men. They are grown men that are putting their bodies on the line for, at that point, 55 minutes and 12 seconds, and looking at each other and some words is going to be something that you throw a flag on? Like, come on. 3 guys were laying on top of Matt Ryan. 3 guys were laying on top of him. But go back to your sideline, punk, is a 15-yard penalty. You know what the nonverbal go back to your sideline, punk word is, or saying, is when you lay on top of him by sacking him. But you can't be verbal about it.
I don't want to give the impression that I think Chris Jones is blameless here. I think he made a foolish mental mistake in a big moment. I also think this is one of those rare instances where pointing at a referee and saying you have mismanaged your role in this environment is fair.
Yeah,
I
agreed.
hate doing referee talk. I hate, I missed a personal foul. This is an interpretation call.
Yeah.
This isn't a misholding or whatever where bleep happens. This is an interpretation call where the referee decided to extend the game in that moment. I hope Chris Jones got his money's worth. Is what I hope. I hope that those curse words felt really good to say to Matt Ryan.
This is going to be hypocritical because I'm with you in that I don't like talking about officials, and because so many things happened in that game that it shouldn't come down to Chris Jones. It shouldn't come down to whether there was a pass interference in the end zone or not. But I am shocked that it wasn't even mentioned in the fact that the defensive back against Kelsey on the 3rd and 2 wasn't looking, was in Kelsey's grill, and had both hands on his shoulder pads pushing him while Kelsey can't even reach down. And they said, well, that's just good coverage. Good coverage there. Like, that is the definition of pass interference. If the guy isn't there, Kelsey catches the ball.
There's no play on the ball.
But he interfered. Yep. It wasn't called. Yep. But also, you're a much better team than that team. Find a way to win. But I think both can be true. I think there are some missed calls, but I think you got to find ways to overcome all of that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
What if there was a screaming crowd of children out front going, Jason! Jason Anderson! I love the Zone!
I would wonder what I did in life to end up in hell.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, 913-381-810 to the phone lines we go. We'll talk with Field Yates coming up at noon, and then hear from Andy Reid about 12:30 or so. Mick Shaffer, 1 o'clock, Learn Funniest Best with Mick Shaffer. Let's go to Storyteller next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB on this Monday. Storyteller, go right ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Gentlemen, always a pleasure.
Appreciate you calling in, man.
Do you think the Evans Lattimore Brady incident that happened last week affected that penalty?
I don't know. I think I think everything's separate. Like, I don't think the officials are like, hey, let's all make sure that these, quarterbacks are protected. Although, speaking of that, I do want to give credit to Mick Shaffer, who had a great line last night and about the Chris Jones incident, and asked Ken Swanson, what did Chris Jones say about Tom Brady to Matt Ryan that got a flag? I thought, you know what, Mick, that's a great line. So you saying Tom Brady reminded me of that.
And I have an oldie but goodie for you. Let Pat play. Let Pat play.
I'm all good with that, man. Let Pat play every time. Although they should figure out how to run the football from time to time, too, if they're going to. If they're going to hand it off, they should be better at it.
One of the problems you seem to have late in the right before the half was that the sun in that building is really strange. That must be an advantage that the Colts have. Because and the camera behind Mahomes, the sun was shining bright, and all the receivers were in the shade.
Yeah. Storyteller, appreciate the phone call, man. 913-381-810. I don't know how much of an advantage is. I mean, they're both playing the same way. Maybe the Colts are used to it when the roof is closed, when it's open, whatever.
You could probably get that Sky Moore fielding issue probably could have been partially chalked up to that. They got weird sight lines in Indy. I mean, it is different.
It is.
You got to be prepared for it. That's not an excuse.
Yeah.
But it could partially explain some of that weirdness.
And maybe the Colts are so used to it, they take punts in that stadium a lot to get used to it, whereas other teams aren't used to it. I don't know.
Well, also, the Chiefs downed one inside the one, right? Also,
right.
I mean, the degree of difficulty there might just be a little bit higher for anyone who has to track the ball in the air.
Let's go to 6 and 8 next up on Sports Radio 810 WHB. 6 and 8, go right ahead, sir. What's on your mind?
Hey, what's up, man? I remember I called this show about 2 years ago, and you guys laughed at.
I did not hang up on him.
That was not us. That wasn't Jason.
My hands are over here.
Beards, was that you?
Wasn't me.
It sounded that was the sound of us hanging up on someone, but none of us did it. 6 and 8. That's not.
I laughed at you. I don't want to hear about it. Go on.
That is what it sounded like. It sounded like he was about to bring up something very personal to you, but I
want to hear it though. I want to know what we laughed about.
It didn't involve me, so I super want to hear it.
Maybe I thought we were laughing together, and he thought we were laughing at him. I don't know. But I would also offer, I bet 6 and 8 has lauged at me a lot.
Yeah, we make
Give us
it
a call.
easy.
I don't know what happened there. Give us a call. I'm really curious as to what the laughing was about.
Interest is peaked.
It might have been about Orlando Brown. I don't know. I don't think it could have been 2 years ago because, well, I mean, you know what? It could have been 2 years ago early in the season at this time. No, it had been last year. It could have been 2 years ago. It had to be last year.
Yeah, I don't know.
Early in the season at this time when people were wondering what the hell was going on with
Let's
Orlando
play
Brown.
guess the take. I bet it's Andy Reid or Eric Bieniemy related.
I think it's Orlando Brown. That's what I think. Is he back on? He's back on? All right.
That's a radio tease.
All right. 6 and 8. Go ahead, man. I don't know what happened there. I promise I did. Luckily, we have video now. I did not hang up on you. I don't know what took place.
Hey, listen, man. Yeah, I don't know what happened either. But anyway, what I was going to say is the last time I called you guys about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I said that they made a big mistake letting go of John Dorsey, and you guys laughed at me. But it's starting to manifest now because the John Dorsey guys like Fisher. Okay, this is what I said. Okay, Fisher's All-Pro, Kelsey's Hall of Famer, Hill's a Hall of Famer, Chris Jones All-Pro, Peters was Pro Bowler, Mahomes Hall of Famer, Kareem Hunt led the NFL in rushing, and Schwartz was an All-Pro. Most of these guys are gone. And so you look at the guys that Beach has bought in. Only impact player he's bought in 5 years is the kid from Missouri.
Bolton.
Other guys are good, but they're not impact players like the guys I've named off. It's not even close. And that offensive line is vastly overrated, and it's the problem we're not scoring points because Mahomes doesn't have enough time to throw the ball. They offered Brown $139 million. He turned it down. Teron Armstead got $75 million from the Dolphins, $65 million less. He's a much better player. They gave Clark $106 million. Robert Quinn got $75 million from the Bears, much better player. They gave Hitchens $20 million more than they gave DeMario Davis down in New Orleans, who's a much better player. I mean, you keep bringing in these negatives when you had all these positives. Mahomes can't do everything. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's, to me, the main problem with the roster is starting to diminish.
Well, I mean, he didn't have a choice on Mitchell Schwartz. So, I mean, bringing in Mitchell Schwartz, certainly, but Mitchell Schwartz was to be on the team. It wasn't with a back injury. I don't think Andrew Wiley was the issue yesterday. And Eric Fisher, we're going to have to find a left tackle somewhere. Maybe John Dorsey makes a different decision. Maybe John Dorsey's able to get Trent Williams from San Francisco to join the Chiefs. But in the situation that they had, Orlando Brown seemed to be the best option at the time. Joe Thuney, they gave a lot of money to. I don't know that you would give that much money to a left guard. Regardless,
I said that at that time.
Yep, and I think Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith were good draft picks. They're just struggling this year. I think Creed Humphrey played a terrible game against the Chargers. I think Trey Smith struggled yesterday, and Orlando Brown has not had a very good year this year. That whole betting on himself, I mean, he may need to double down at DraftKings because right now he's losing that one.
What I look at is, why can't they just kick Thuney out the left tackle? He's 6'5", 310. He's a better athlete. He's stronger. He has better balance. He can play left tackle. Even if he's just your year stopgap, they could have drafted Cosme from Texas last year instead of giving a first, third, and a fifth for a guy that's slow, awkward, and he's not that strong.
Well, I think he's strong.
You see what I'm saying?
I think he's strong. At least he's
he was getting pushed around yesterday from a guy that's 100 pounds less than him. He can't be that strong.
Well, I think there's also leverage that goes in. Like if somebody tries to go past through Orlando Brown, it's not happening. Because I think he is strong from that perspective. But athletically, if somebody's got the corner on him, if somebody's turning getting around the edge, I don't think Orlando Brown's athletic enough to get back into a position to where his strength would actually be utilized. Because you're right, he's not athletic enough. I mean, the guy had a wide step when Noah Gray was lined up right next to him. Noah Gray's there. What do you think Noah Gray's going to do? You step that wide. I'm assuming 6 and 8 that Andy Heck does not coach Orlando Brown to have a wide left step with somebody lined up right next to him, so then he trips over that guy's foot and falls backwards. I'm assuming Noah Gray's there so that Orlando Brown doesn't have to overcorrect and get outside quickly so that Ngakoue doesn't go around him. That's why you put Noah Gray there, is to make the defensive end not go as far outside to where you can loop around.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that you already got $140 million. Why?
I know.
He's not that good. That's what I'm saying. You could have bought in Teron Armstead for $60 million less and no draft picks. Drafted Cosme. You could have bought Fisher back. You could have put Thuney at left tackle until you got the problem solved and let Cosme develop as a player, like you let Fisher develop as a player.
I think
you have to spend all these draft picks and all this money on a guy that's not that good. Really, he's not that strong. He only did 225 14 times. Thuney did it 28 times. Teron Armstead did it 32 times. He doesn't have NFL lineman strength like he should.
Well, maybe NFL lineman strength and size maybe combination is because when somebody gets into Orlando Brown, they're not getting really away from him. But the athleticism is missing. Maybe Thuney can be a stopgap guy, but I don't think you go into a season saying Thuney is going to be my left tackle moving forward. He can be a stopgap for a season, as you talked about. But then what's the answer moving forward? Is Cosme the answer at left tackle moving forward? Is whoever in the draft that you got to know that somebody's going to be there? I think it was about an assessment of that draft that year. Who's the best left tackle that they can get? And in the draft, they didn't find somebody or think that somebody was good enough. And if they took Tevin Jenkins or somebody else, they might be in a completely different position than they are right now because, that left tackle probably wasn't good enough. And Joe Thuney out at left tackle, I don't know that they looked at it and said he absolutely can be a left tackle for a year while we draft Sam Cosmi and have him develop. We saw it against the Bengals in that game, and I think he could play it more, but I don't think he's your left tackle, and then you move on, and Orlando Brown walks. I think there's a big decision this offseason because if Orlando Brown struggles, I don't think you give him that money.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying is they shouldn't have ever brought him in the first place.
I know.
That's my point.
Oh, I know.
What I'm saying is that offensive line is the reason we haven't seen 2018 from Mahomes, because he doesn't have the time to survey the field when you had Fisher, Schwartz, the kid from Missouri playing center, LDT, and all those other guys. He had all day to look at the field. And when you get somebody like Mahomes all day with Tyreek Hill, I think it was a big mistake them letting go of Pringle. I would take Pringle over all these receivers they have. He was fast. He was fearless, and he could return punts and kicks. They don't have any. To me, there's no receiver they have right now that's as good as Pringle. They have bigger names, but what's the production like?
Yeah, that's where and I will be very disconnected.
I tell you what, 6 and 8, you've really run the gamut for me. You opened up with the missing John Dorsey, and I was not going to follow you. And then you made some points like, you know what? There have been some interesting points in here. The offensive line really has been underwhelming what they've invested into it so far. I wouldn't mind left tackle Joe Thuney. And then we get all the way full circle to you wanting Byron Pringle back. It's just a good call, 6 and 8. I respect it. I respect you making the call back in after Jason hung up on you and pretended that he didn't.
Whoa, hey, that's not true.
Whoa, who said that? Who said that?
There's video evidence.
Guys, you got to respect the guy that drafts 3 Hall of Famers in 5
Absolutely.
years. You have to respect
I will always respect John Dorsey's drafting, and I will always be afraid of what he does whenever he's given the pin on contracts. But Brett Veach has definitely signed up on some stinkers. 6 and 8. I am your ally on the Frank Clark deal being an albatross. I've been in this space probably with you a year and a half ago when you were calling in trying to make Jason and Corey smarter. They're just really, really not very receptive to that sometimes.
I mean, okay, he's not good with numbers. Let a CPA do it. What's the president? I forgot the team president. What does he do? Let somebody else do it. Let him draft the players. Okay, but I took up enough time. Thanks, guys, for taking my call.
I appreciate it. Honestly,
I appreciate it, man.
I think we were both enjoying just sort of listening. It was kind of nice to let somebody else host for a little bit, I guess. I don't know.
The Pringle thing, I'm off the I'm off the train at that point.
Yeah. I did pop, and I can stop on that. But then he said that he could have him back there returning punts and kicks sure-handedly, and then all of a sudden I thought 6 and 8 maybe found some of the good stuff again.
Yeah, because Pringle is the guy you look at and say is sure-handed. How many drop passes has Pringle had the last 2 years?
I don't know.
Too many to say I'm putting him back to be my punt returner that I know he's going to catch everything.
I think
he didn't catch everything when Mahomes threw it to him. How's he going to catch something 40 yards in the air that's dropping straight down?
I think the Chiefs genuinely have like some of the best equipment people in the world, and I just don't know why they haven't been able to find some gloves that actually do have the sticky stuff. That's very confusing.
But the point to where the punt returner tries to throw the ball to the official and it just stuck to his hand.
Yes, that's
like
what I
want. Like, he can't even throw it back. Like, the official asks for the ball, but you take it over to the sideline because you know that ball is not coming off your glove, and you don't want to get disqualified or get a penalty or anything like that.
Oh, breaking
Chargers left tackle Rashawn Slater suffered a ruptured bicep tendon in Sunday's loss and is expected to miss the rest of the year.
Oof.
I thought when he walked...
Gotta wait for him to do the second one.
Sorry about that. Yeah. I stepped all over that. When he walked off the field with his left arm not moving, sort of that left arm where you put it over your belly, but you don't move, it's close to your body, I was shocked at how many people were like, Rashawn Slater is holding his stomach as he's walking off the field, not sure what's going on with the stomach. And I'm like, that's a collarbone. And then they said he's out with the biceps. And I thought, that's a season.
By the way, that was from Tom Pelissero.
Thank you. If it's a collarbone, he's out 6 weeks. But as soon as they said he is out, when it was he's left the game with the biceps, his status is out for the rest of the game, I'm like, he's done. He's done for the year. Like, you rupture your biceps, like, maybe you can come back in the playoffs. Maybe you can. But as an offensive lineman, you're going to need your arms. So, that's a huge blow.
Joey Bosa also getting some testing on his groin injury as well. Right. The Chargers are snake bit, man.
Every year. And J.C. Jackson was already missing the game. Keenan Allen's already injured.
Mizzou freshman wide receiver Luther Burden has deleted all pictures and removed Mizzou from his bio. He just posted this, patiently waiting, ... on his Instagram stories.
For a damn football thrown his way.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Did he, how did I miss that?
You were probably talking over him.
On Sports Radio 810.
All right, wrapping up this hour, we'll talk with Field Yates coming up on the other side of the break. And then Andy Reid around 12:30 or so, after we hang out with Field. Mick Shaffer, 1 o'clock, Learn Funniest Best with Mick Shaffer. But we'll certainly talk Field Yates with the Chargers losing Rashawn Slater for the season. That is massive, a massive loss. The Chiefs suffered a loss yesterday. The Chargers suffered a capital LOSS yesterday.
Suffered 2 yesterday, really.
No doubt about that. Got beat down by the Jags, and Slater is done. And oh, by the way, if your left tackle is missing, the best thing to do is have a quarterback with bad ribs. Chargers, off-season champs. Field Yates next.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Don't dab babies, okay?
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we'll hear from Andy Reid coming up later on this hour. Mick Shaffer will join us as well, talking about the Chiefs' 2017 loss to the Indianapolis Colts. Somehow, some way, any given Sunday, as they like to say around the league. Right now, talking with our NFL insider from ESPN, Field Yates, joins us here in the Zone. Field, what is up, man? How are you, sir?
Jason, I am doing well. How about you, my friend? What's going on?
You know what? Not much. We are working through it today. The post game yesterday with Josh working through that, and then today working through the show so far. It's an odd mix, Field, of a lot of frustration while also maybe trying to find perspective that the AFC is a little bit different than what we thought it would look like 3 weeks in. And how many of the issues that plagued the Chiefs yesterday are long-term issues to where they're sort of death knells? What's your reaction and takeaway from the surprising 20-17 loss to the Colts?
Yeah, definitely not any death knells yet. I don't know that any team in the AFC has asserted itself in a way that says this is the standard, and every other team or most of the teams are below that standard. As of right now, there's just one team that's undefeated in the AFC still. That's the Dolphins, and certainly a great win for them yesterday against the Bills, but one of the most unique games in so many ways, not the least of which that the Bills were down so many key defensive players and a handful of players on offense, too, that mattered. So I think the Chiefs Sunday was disappointing. I don't think it's an indictment of their inability to compete this year. I just think that maybe some of the concerns that I think we maybe saw signs of in week 2 against the Chargers maybe got a little bit stronger yesterday than they were during a game in which you found a way to win against Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's right. It's if they won yesterday, it might be one of those. You know what? We might have spent the entire first hour of the show talking about the defense if they ended up winning yesterday. And instead, we've spent most of the time talking about the offense and special teams and how they lost this one, and Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy and Chris Jones, what he said to Matt Ryan that could have warranted a flag at that time, instead of the fact that the defense gave up a 3-yard touchdown drive. The second touchdown drive was by the penalty, keeping that drive alive and a couple of field goals. And they were really good and got off the field, had fourth down stops, controlled Jonathan Taylor. That would be a large portion of the conversation, Field. And I guess from my perspective is, there's frustration, there's concern on different things. But if the defense is playing like this moving forward, then there aren't many concerns I have for this Chiefs team, long term in terms of things that would keep them from winning or competing for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's funny. We hear this term often when we're talking about the NBA. I often hear analysts describe players as either 82-game players or 16-game players. And what they mean by that is that the 82-game player, the kind of guy that can be effective in the regular season, and the 16-game player is the kind of guy who may not be a 16-game player, maybe has some deficiencies that really rear themselves once the postseason begins. You're facing the best of the best. Oftentimes in the NBA, it's like an undersized guard who's good during the regular season but can't defend anybody. And the reason why I make that point is I think that you're right. If the Chiefs defense plays like it does, like it did yesterday for much of the regular season, they'll be fine. They'll probably win 10, 11, 12 games, maybe 13. We'll see. Obviously, that division doesn't look quite the same way that we thought it would just 3 weeks into the year. I think the big question for the defense is going to be, for both sides of the ball, is going to be what happens in these one-game scenarios. Because, we've seen the offense look a little bit vulnerable over the past 2 weeks. And while Travis Kelce is still the top target for Patrick Mahomes, after Juju Smith-Schuster looked like he was going to be the guy in week 1, we have seen really not much from the receivers over the past 2 weeks. So those are questions that I think have to be answered. But on a macro level, my concerns for the Chiefs are relatively small compared to other teams around the NFL.
Offensively, there was a lot of optimism and chest puffing after the first game against the Cardinals. They were 6 of 6 in the red zone. They put up all those points, all the touchdown passes, the touchdowns they scored. And in the last 2 games, they have scored 4 total touchdowns. They are 3 of 7 in the red zone. And, yeah, the Chargers defensively better than the Cardinals, but I don't know that I'm all that impressed with what the Colts have to offer overall, and especially without Shaq Leonard out there on the field. The regression that's happened with the offense, is that just maybe the Cardinals, they played an awesome game, and maybe the Cardinals not all that great defensively, and it was masking maybe some issues that are there with maybe the offensive line regressing a little bit, and this wide receiver core, whether it's getting used to Patrick Mahomes getting used to them, or just simply not winning one-on-ones and not getting open enough to where it's easier throws for Mahomes, or they can move the chains and it's not, Mahomes having to do everything on his own.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts. Let's start with the teams that they've played. Week 1 struck me as the Chiefs being way more talented, way better prepared for that week, right? I mean, the Cardinals are kind of still sleepwalking so far this season. They pulled one out of their rear, so to speak, in Week 2 against the Raiders, but they've been very uninspiring otherwise, especially in the first quarter of games where they've been outscored 31-0. Week 2 struck me as the Chargers, at least in that game, had the horses to hang, right? They're pretty talented on defense. They, when healthy, have 2 really good edge rushers. They've got good complementary pieces. They've got good, potentially 2 all-pro level secondary players. And then Week 3 felt like, the Colts maybe don't offer the same level of talent as the Chargers do, especially without Shaquille Leonard, but they are well coached, and they've got a system that I think has shown a little bit of promise under Gus Bradley, which we thought might be an interesting transition. And Patrick Mahomes has kind of had the decided edge over Gus Bradley in their previous times playing against each other. So I think that kind of is how I explain those first 3 games. And as for the wide receivers, I don't think there is a superstar amongst the group, which is about as cold of a take as you have, right? I mean, no one expected any of those players necessarily be anything close to Tyreek Hill. But I think what we are counting on that we haven't seen over the past 2 games is that basically every game you could count on one guy emerging. This is something I think about often in the fantasy football world. And over the past 2 weeks, you haven't had a wide receiver step up. And it's really 3 guys we're focusing in on, and obviously MVS and Juju and Mecole Hardman. And we've really had 1 good week from them combined in 3 games.
And, what I've seen the last couple of games is that, without one particular guy, so without a guy that can, touch the ball and then take it 70 yards or create different things, that if you just simply put the ball in his hands, that if you're saying each week is going to be somebody different, like Patrick Mahomes saying, I apologize to all the fantasy football people out there, but every week it's going to be somebody different, then a number of things have to work. One, the offensive game plan needs to be really good against the defense they're going up against. The quarterback needs to know, whatever the defense is going to be in and whatever they might be rolling into after the snap. The protection has to be there, certainly, to allow some of those routes to develop with the scheme, because somebody may not just be able to beat their guy right off the, at the snap. And the quarterback has to then, find the correct guy that is open. He has to deliver it accurately, and the guy has to go and catch the ball. As opposed to, at times when it's just, I'm going to throw the ball to that guy because he can go and make a huge play, and he can go and, 70 yards or whatever. And the last 2 games, all of those things haven't worked in concert. It's been the protection has broken down. There have been some times when Mahomes didn't throw it to the receiver that looked to be open. And there were plays in the Colts game that receivers didn't make plays for Mahomes and go and catch the ball that could have extended drives. And it makes you, be more methodical driving down the field. And we've seen this with the Chiefs last year and then this year so far as well, Field, that when you're more methodical, penalties can hurt you, penalties can kill you. And if the Chiefs can't run the football, which they can't right now, then there's really no fear on, if you're going to hand it off, because they had 17 carries yesterday for 29 yards with their running backs. I mean, that's just that's brutal. So there is some concern on the offense.
Less than that.
Yeah. There's some concern with the offense, but at the end of the day, I come back to Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. The offensive line is talented, so they should be able to figure it out. At the end of last year, they did.
Yes and no, and here's the reason why I say yes for all the reasons you laid out and organizational infrastructure and all that. Mm-hmm. I think the no side of this would be that the big play was such an element element of their offense over the past Lord knows how many years, right, with Tyreek Hill playing alongside Patrick Mahomes. And while Juju did have, a 50-plus yard catch in week 1, and we saw that long throw to Justin Watson in prime time last week, it's just a different element, right? It's not nearly the same level of explosive on offense right now amongst the wide receivers. I'm not saying they can't figure it out and still be a way above average offense, because in week 1 they completely decimated the Cardinals and looked like one of the best offenses in the league. But that probably is the counterpoint, if you're looking for one, for why the offense is not quite the same as where it has been in previous years. So it's something they're going to have to work through. I take a big macro step back, and yesterday was obviously brutal. And there were some clumsy plays, some unforced errors from guys that you never expect that from, right? Travis Kelce being one of them. That, like, if you were to ask me my sort of temperature take on the Chiefs, it's like still feeling really good about them. What we have found this season is that on both a team and individual level, it's going to be hard to expect greatness week after week after week. And I'm not trying to say that fantasy football is the same thing as real football, but look at what Jonathan Taylor over the past 2 weeks has been contained to, right? I mean, he's barely had 150 total yards, and he's one of the best players in the league. Look at Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers yesterday. Those guys are grinding it out to a 14-12 win. I mean, it's just not the same at all this year as we have seen in so many prior years. And I don't know if scoring is down. My guess is it's pretty close to where it was last year, but it sure feels like it's been a slower start for some elite players early on this season.
It's 3 weeks in, but is there anything you've seen from the AFC that, I guess we can talk about the Chargers' injuries real quick, but anything you've seen from the AFC that changes your thought or perspective as to what preseason we thought it would look like?
A lot of things. So I'll have to sort of narrow it down to a couple here is, the Raiders, this is a tough spot here if you're the Raiders, right? I mean, they're 0-3, and the difference between, like, I'm not saying the Chiefs want to have like a 500 season this year, and there's 0% chance that I think that'll happen. But in an alternate universe where the Chiefs go 8-1 this year, we would all be like, yeah, that sucks, but Patrick Mahomes, they'll be back next year, right? Well, where are you at if you're the Raiders, who Derek Carr is not, Drew Brees or Eli Manning, twilight of his career, late 30s, almost 40, where those guys were just a few years ago. But still, they traded for all these players, Devontae Adams. They spent big in free agency. They signed players to extensions. Max value in all those deals was close to $500 million. And they're 0-3 right now. The only team in the NFL, only one that has lost every game so far this season. And you look at their schedule over the next couple of weeks: Broncos in Las Vegas, Chiefs, of course, Monday Night Football the following week. If you're 0-5, what do you do if you're Las Vegas? I mean, the answer is you got to keep going, right? But this is a team that came in with some pretty significant expectations to win and win right now, and that has been far from the case. Yeah.
Visiting with Field Yates from ESPN. Okay, Chargers, and then we'll let you go. But Chargers, the injuries are mounting, and the big news today, breaking news from L.A., is that Rashawn Slater, with a biceps rupture in the game yesterday, is expected to miss the season, which is such a massive, massive blow to that team offensively. And it makes matters worse when you've got a quarterback that's already dealing with a rib injury, and now you lose one of maybe he and Trent Williams' best left tackles in the league.
Going to say that this is a bad injury no matter what the circumstances are, because Slater is in the conversation for best left tackles in the NFL. But you compound that with the fact that Justin Herbert looked like a shell of himself for stretches of the game yesterday. It's ugly right now, and unfortunately for the Chargers, this is what we call deja vu all over again, right? Not just Rashawn Slater, it's Joey Bosa, who's also hurt. Justin Herbert's hurt. J.C. Jackson had this weird wait until like a week before the season and then get surgery. He misses week 1, he plays in week 2, and then he misses week 3. Like, that's bizarre, curious. The entire team feels like it's banged up again, and they're already 1-2. And you just can't play the schedule game like you thought you could coming into the season, right? Everybody had playing the Jaguars at home is a win for the Chargers, right? They got robbed by almost 3 touchdowns. So it's a much different outlook for the Chargers, especially without having Rashawn Slater.
Real quick, it's a very early look at Chiefs and Bucks, but they'll get Mike Evans back. The Buccaneers will, so that will certainly help. But what do you make of this Bucks team as they get ready for this big Sunday Night Football matchup?
It's one, like we always have. There's a lot of week left when we talk on Monday, but more so than maybe any conversation we'll have all year, this one could be the hardest one because it's a very different Bucks team with Chris Godwin and Julio Jones than it is, and Donovan Smith, than it is without those guys. So if those three play, I think Tampa can find a way to grind one out because they're so good on defense. If they don't, then this is a game where this feels coin flippy as it were. So that's it's a big test, that much is for sure, even if that Bucks offense is not what you think they are.
Field Yates from ESPN. Field, you're the man. Really appreciate the time, sir. We will talk next week. Enjoy the football.
All right, sounds good, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. There's Field Yates from ESPN NFL Insider. As we talk about the Chiefs team, they lose 20-17. The AFC is really interesting now as the lone undefeated team in the AFC is what most people expected, the Miami Dolphins, and the lone 0-3 team in the league is the Raiders. There are two winless teams in the league, the Raiders and the Texans. Everybody else is, well...
Give the Giants a chance, Jason.
You're right. Giants are 2-0. Giants are undefeated at this point. Still undefeated, your New York Football Giants.
They can get by Cooper Rush tonight.
Yeah, but good luck with that.
Here's from Daniel Popper, who covers the Chargers for The Athletic. So to recap for the Chargers, quarterback, fractured rib cartilage. All-pro center, knee injury. All-pro left tackle, likely to miss the season with torn biceps. Number one receiver, strained hamstring. Top pass rusher, groin injury. Top cornerback, not responding as expected from ankle surgery. If you saw J.C. Jackson came back for the Chiefs game, and then I think he left. I can't remember if he was even active at all. I would have to go double check. He was not active yesterday.
No, he wasn't.
Whenever the Chiefs play at the same time as a bunch of other games, I really lose my feel for other games.
Yep.
He came back for Chiefs-Chargers. They lost that game, and now he's back in question again. I mean, it's a movie we've seen before with the Chargers, but it is a brutal one.
I didn't expect it to be this quick.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, they may turn it around. They may be just fine, but the Chargers aren't winning the Super Bowl without Rashawn Slater at left tackle. Sorry. They're not. That's such a massive loss for that team.
It's huge.
To be able to then protect Justin Herbert, to run the football when you're going to have to now scheme and do some things to protect the left side of that offensive line, which is going to take away from some of the other things that you might have wanted to do. And that's assuming nobody else gets injured along the way. I mean, they've already been ravaged by injuries.
Is
and that
Storm
sucks.
Norton going to go play left tackle?
Yes.
I just opened their depth chart. Do you know who their backup left tackle is? Storm Norton's listed as the backup right tackle. Do you know who the backup left tackle is on the depth chart I have here for the Chargers?
Curtis Seabolt.
Nobody!
Oh.
Nobody.
So I had a better guess than
I would rather have Curtis playing left tackle than nobody.
Literally nobody. Who came in yesterday in that game to go and play?
I'm guessing it's Storm Norton again. I apologize. My NFL retention is much lower.
No, I'll find out. You're good.
During the heat of Chiefs games. But I mean,
why? What are you doing after Chiefs games?
Nothing important.
Okay.
I mean, that's true. That's not a joke. I just don't know. I don't know how the Chargers navigate this. I mean, I'm repeating myself now from something we said earlier, but that's one of the most devastating losses for a team anywhere in football that could have happened outside of the quarterback position.
Storm Norton. Yeah,
Storm is a coming.
Pipkins at right tackle played the whole game, and then Rashawn Slater 33 snaps and Storm Norton 28. So it was Storm. Storm and Norton.
I don't know, man. I just don't know what the Chargers do here. It's devastating.
Yeah. And again, Keenan Allen still dealing with a hamstring injury.
We do not know about Joey Bosa.
Dealing with a groin. And J.C. Jackson, it's pretty damn concerning if you're the Chargers and J.C. Jackson, you've been waiting on him and waiting on him and waiting on him, and then boom, it's go time against the Chiefs. Now you got this guy back. He plays a game, and now you don't know when he's going to come back because it did not respond. Whatever happened during or after the Chiefs game in which that ankle took a step back to when he didn't practice and he was inactive this week against the Jags, or maybe they said, we can get by the Jags without you. Let's rest JC this week, and we'll see moving forward after that. But it's no bueno there in L.A. with this Chargers team. And the Broncos found a way to pull one out last night against the 49ers in a game that was as awful as the final score sounded. Oof. There was some bad football yesterday. Some really bad football. I mean, Colts and Chiefs, bad football.
Terrible.
The Broncos and
Niners,
bad
oh
football.
My God.
Packers and Bucks, bad football. We were talking at one of the breaks in the first hour. I want somebody else to do the research because I don't want to do it myself, but I wonder how many games in Tom Brady's career did he complete 74% of his passes on, 42 attempts, 74% of his passes with a touchdown, no turnovers, and that team scored 12 points. Almost 300 yards passing, 74%, did not turn the ball over, threw for a touchdown, and they lost 14-12.
Football, man.
I don't know. And it's funny because, watching that game, I'm like, Brady is completing passes all day, and yet it doesn't feel like the Bucs are actually challenging the Packers on any of these drives.
You said 74 was your cutoff?
74% passing, no turnovers, and only scoring 12 points. Or like 74% passing and no turnovers. Like how many? What are the fewest points that he's ever scored?
Well, I'll tell you this.
Please do.
If 74% completion percentage is the cutoff, he has one loss outside of the one the other day, and that was against the Rams in 2021.
Do you see does it show that like the scores of all the, because 74%, he's probably got like 150 games or something like that of 74% because it's Tom Brady and he just completes passes. But I'm curious about like what
he lost that game 24-34. There's a game where
24 points.
There's a game he had a completion percentage of 73.8% that he lost to Green.
No, that was yesterday. I rounded up to 74. Yeah. Sorry, 73.8. I apologize.
He has one loss when he's thrown 74% completion percentage or better.
It's football, man. Any given Sunday, you never know what's going to happen, and maybe that's what is a bigger picture sort of disappointing end to the game yesterday, is that if the Chiefs came out of this game sitting 3-0 and the Bills had just lost to the Dolphins and the Chargers had been losing players and then got beat down by the Jags, and you feel like, did people think the Bills were going to go to Miami and lose preseason when they're, picking the AFC and things like that? I don't know. But you feel like you had an opportunity to gain a game and you gave it right back. And you got to go and get a game somewhere along the way. Maybe Andy Reid got his, how did they lose to that team, out of the way in week 3? Hopefully. Maybe they make up for it by going and beating the Bucs. I had them starting 3-1. Go beat the Bucs today. All is good in the world. I don't know if that is even true.
Also, you were asking about the point total for that.
Yeah.
His least points he had when throwing for 74% completion percentage or better was in a win against Tampa Bay in 2017 where they only scored 19 points.
So a touchdown less.
He had one touchdown and looks like one interception in that game, if that's right. Yes.
Wow.
It still threw 303 yards.
Sometimes receivers do make a difference, and the Chiefs better figure it out with their wide receiving group, because Sky Moore's been disappointing. MVS just has been a guy, and they missed on what could have been a touchdown in the game, and Juju looks like a 4 tight end. But he looks fine. I'm just saying, like, size-wise.
I think it makes sense for it to take a little while for everything to gel together, which is why I, again, continue to be more frustrated about the special teams yesterday than anything else, because the defense, which also was going to deserve some time to gel if they needed it, they didn't need it. So everything had come together to even have a little bit of wiggle room for either the offense or the special teams to have some growing pains yesterday. And they were both really bad.
Tim said yesterday, Grunhard, that You know, the old adage that, you know, he grew up with was you can't lose two phases of the game.
Yeah.
You can lose a phase.
Yep.
But if you lose two phases of the game, you're going to lose the game. And the Chiefs lost two phases of the game on special teams and offense. And the defense couldn't do nearly enough when, let's be honest, they did enough. But they didn't do enough, but they did enough, if you follow me. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from Andy Reid next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Red Mondays.
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
You've stood next to a naked Tony Gonzalez, though, right?
Well, yeah, I didn't think it would be.
Don't act like you're above me. Don't act like you've never been there.
I've stood next to many naked people.
Yeah, but Tony Gonzalez was probably the best looking one.
On Sports Radio 810.
It's true. It's just a fact. It's truth. Truth bombs over here.
Locker room environments are really weird. It's really hard to explain.
Fact grenades, truth bombs.
How that all works. You go in to do your job, and there are just some naked dudes.
Everybody's just doing their job. Sometimes guys are naked when you're doing the job. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're fully clothed. Sometimes they're half naked. Sometimes they're fully naked. You never know. You never know what you're going to get.
That should mean
That'll be great out of context. Thanks, Jason.
You're welcome. Figured I looked right over at you after I was done and went and leaned forward and mark that. Appreciate it, bud. Looking forward to hearing that back on Friday.
Did you ever have a moment in time where you're like, all right, I'm no longer fazed by it in the locker room? How long did that take,
Well, I mean, it's jarring when you first walk in, to cover it because it's like, wow, I'm in an NFL locker room.
Mm-hmm.
And it's jarring because when you think back to like movies and stuff, guys are sitting in like their pads or something and they're talking to them and it's like, okay, media's in there with their shoulder pads on and guys are talking and then everybody leaves and then they shower, when in reality it's like guys are just doing their own thing. The shoulder pads are off, guys are, talking to the media with like just their, football pants on, sometimes no pants on. Guys are walking in and out of the shower. Guys are standing next to people that are not clothed. Guys are trying to slide over to their locker that's being blocked by the media members that are talking to maybe somebody in the locker next to them, and they're doing that while wearing a very small towel around their waist because they are NFL football players, and for some reason they don't have towels that are big enough. Maybe they don't make towels big enough. I'm not sure.
You should get them some bigger towels. That's a great call.
You would think. So there's a lot of things that are going on, and what I realized was like, just simply focus on the person you're talking to. There's a lot of distracting things. There's people walking, there's people talking. Sometimes there's a conversation about what they're getting ready to do when they leave, and I'm like, I kind of want to listen to that. Hear what they're going to do. Are they going to... Nope, they're just hanging out at his house. Okay, never mind.
But eventually you figured out how to kind of block that out and just sort of just be there, do your job, folks, and the person you're talking to?
Well, I was on Tony Gonzalez duty.
Sure.
Which meant that, Tony Gonzalez was on his own time, and he did not wait for you guys to get there. He would go and shower. He would walk back to his locker. He would then lotion.
Got to stay moisturized. Wow. Okay.
He would put his suit on. He would make sure his hair is good. He would put his jewelry on. He would turn around and start talking.
Okay.
There wasn't anyway, he would turn around and go, well, today, I thought that, blah, 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 start talking. So what happens is that as soon as Tony G leaves for the shower, people line up around his locker. So if you want to hear from Tony Gonzalez, you're probably going to need to get there early because you don't want to have to stick your arm over 4 people to try to get a soundbite from Tony G. And I was on Tony G duty. So therefore, I just stood by his locker while he dressed.
Short version of that is if I do go ahead and get these pesky pants off, it's not going to bother you any.
You are not Tony G. Andy Reid met with the media via Zoom today, and he starts off with his conversation here with the media. Here is Andy at the media via Zoom today.
All right, so I don't have any injuries to tell you. We didn't have any yesterday, so the guys are just coming in now. So listen, I would tell you basically the same thing that I mentioned to you yesterday after the game. We had too many mistakes and didn't give ourselves the opportunity that we needed to win. And I always start with myself. I could have definitely put the guys in a better position than I did. And I think after talking to our players, and you got the same feeling from them that they took responsibility where needed, and that's kind of where we're at. And I think it's important that part took place. But we all had a piece of this, and we need to take care of business and fix the issues. So and clean it up. And that's what we'll start doing here tomorrow when the players come in. Anyways, with that time, Jerry.
Well, first, Adam Teicher. Go ahead, Adam.
Hey, Andy. With regard to the Chris Jones penalty, do you have a better idea of exactly what he said or did and whether that penalty under those circumstances was justified? And Brad, I'll have a second question as well.
Yeah, so the officials will file a report with the league. From what I understand, we don't necessarily get that report. We get a different report on the, but that one there, we don't, that's not one that they give to us. So we'll talk to the league once that's been turned in and go from there, but and see what information we can get. I know talking takes place during games. So it was a bit what I mentioned yesterday, that there were two guys doing the talking, and we got called. So the best advice I can give is don't talk, right? And I think Chris mentioned that yesterday too. So, but I can't tell you exactly what was said until I see that report or see what they say.
Okay. And assuming for a minute that Butker is not ready to kick on Sunday in Tampa, will you have a different kicker other than Amendola on Sunday night?
I can't tell you that right now. That's Brett's mulling through all that and working through it right now.
Yes. I can't tell you that. Well, I mean, if the answer is no, that if Butker can't go, then Amendola's your kicker, then the answer would be no, we won't have a different kicker. But if it's is Butker, if he can't go, will we have a different kicker? I don't know. I can't tell you that right now. Veach is mulling over that. Veach is looking for somebody to sign.
I think right now Brett Veach is trying to just sign someone named Mullen. Like it could not possibly have been worse.
The Chiefs will get a report from the league, and Andy Reid said they'll see from there to see what went on with Chris Jones and the nasty words that were said. That was abusive towards Matt Ryan, who also did not want to weigh in on anything that was said. Andy Reid saying that they've just got to get all the pieces working together to get their running game working.
I can help out with the different calls. We have a variety of runs, so I can definitely help out with that. We can do a better job with our front guys. They take great pride and responsibility for that run game. So we could do a better job there, and the running backs do the same. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of pride that goes into that run game, and being positive with it, and then also giving them more opportunities if needed to do it. So that's that's kind of what we're hashing through. So
let's go next to Mick Shaffer. Go ahead, Mick.
Hey, Coach, I'm wondering, the Chargers also struggled yesterday after that Thursday night game. There have been some other teams over the years, that back end of the Thursday night games. Is there anything inherent to that, to where you have the rush of those two games and then maybe a letdown over that longer layoff that could lead to poorer performances, I guess, after the Thursday night games?
Yeah, Mick, I wasn't anticipating that. This one was a different one. We started off with some kind of crazy situations that took place, and so we've got to learn to grow from some of the things that took place here, and whether it's young players or old players, we got to grow and use it as a learning experience here for us. But I haven't correlated that with coming off the Thursday games. I do know what happened yesterday, though.
I mean, it might just be that two teams, because if Sky Moore doesn't fumble the football, or if Mahomes and MVS hook up on that long play that could have been a big touchdown, ifs and buts and candy and nuts and everything would, every day be Christmas, all of that stuff. Did they just not show up? Or did things start to compile and build up and little mistake here, little mistake there, and it's just like, wow, that was a terrible, terrible football game, whereas one thing different here, one thing different there, and the rest of the game goes in a completely different way.
Specifically, those two examples, think about when in the game you are talking about, That was the first defensive drive and the first offensive drive. The Chiefs should have been up 7-0 in this game, not the other way around. The Chiefs should have never been playing from behind. Sky Moore fields a punt, and yes, I mean, again, all the butterfly effect stuff, no guarantee that any of this shows up the same way, but just these two moments, Sky Moore fields a punt, Mahomes hits MVS. You're talking about 7-0 with the defense giving you a 3-and-out, and then the offense dropping a bomb in 3 plays, I think. Yeah, that was the third play of that drive because the Chiefs went 3-and-out. A forced 3-and-out and a touchdown on the third offensive play of the game. Everything would have felt different. That's why it's pretty easy to draw your lines back to where the special teams just got this game off on a terrible foot.
And the next possession was when the Chiefs started at the 1-yard line.
Yep.
So you had the muff, you had the misconnection with MVS, and you had the first down at your own 1-yard line, and you had an amazing play by a Colts defender that I didn't think there was a chance Kelsey was not going to pick up that first down on 3rd and 7 when he got he was running across the field. I thought, okay, cool, first down, move the chains. And he got tackled.
Gilmore,
like,
good at football, crazy.
Was it Gilmore that made the tackle?
It sure was. That mother bleeper.
Yeah, I hate him.
In the wrong uniform.
He did my Parker. Don't even try to figure out what that was
let
from.
him go.
Andy Reid was asked about the logistics of the offensive play calling.
Yeah, so really everybody has their area that they contribute to, and we go through and stack the plays and work it from there without giving too much there. But so we have a pretty good idea what order we're going in. Then we just talk through it. I mean, EV and I talk through it. Nags does this year, like Mike did last year. Joe Blameyer's part of it. Everybody kind of has their part that we talk through and make sure that we're seeing things right. But listen, inevitably, it's my responsibility to make sure that the right things get in at the right time. So, and that comes strictly onto me, that part. But I thought our guys, the communication was very well and good yesterday, and EB was great with the quarterback on the headset and getting things in and that. But we got to get the guys into a rhythm, and I didn't think that took place yesterday. It was spurty at best, and you can't that you don't want that.
Yesterday after the game, Sky Moore admitted after the muff punt, on the second punt that they let hit the ground, he admitted that it was somewhat lingered in the back of his mind. How do you go about rebuilding his confidence? And what did you say to him, or what did Coach Tobe say to him during the game to rebuild it?
Yeah. So Sky's a competitive kid, and he's young. And so some of the things that happened yesterday happened with some young guys, and you've got to, I've said that from the get-go. You're going to have a hiccup here or there. And you hope it doesn't happen, and you practice it doesn't happen, but sometimes it happens. And then it's, the young kids have got to grow, and you got to get back on the horse, Herbie, and to learn. And he did that. He got back on and did a couple good things in there. So, but he'll be better for it down the road.
And we'll see how much better down the road he ends up being with that. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue hearing from Andy Reid on the other side of the break. More Zone next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Hey, you're in the room all by yourself, dude.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
No, you're all right. That's okay.
Thank you, Andy. We needed to hear that from Andy. You're right. You're right. That's okay. It's okay. You lost the game. Losses happen. Nobody thought they were going to go 17-0. I think they're going to go 16-1, but nobody thought 17-0.
I did Sunday sound off after Chiefs-Chargers. We all played the game of when will the Chiefs have their first loss of the season? Tell you who said Colts week 3? Nobody!
I did. If I'd have been on there that day, it's just,
Nobody!
I would have said, why is everybody overlooking the Colts? I think this is a definite scary trap game for the Chiefs, and they could probably lose the game. I would not take the Chiefs minus the points. I'd take the Colts money line.
I hate being right and then being wrong. I know I've said this 1,000 times, but the Colts are who we thought they were.
Yep.
And we let them off the hook.
If you want to crown the ass, then crown them. By the way, Kendall Gammon on Friday saying, the Colts are a team you got to put it away early.
Ugh.
So proficient.
The longest family-owned...
The Zone with Jason Anderson.
Do you guys want a teaser for the cuts that we'll get to later?
Yes.
By chance?
Yes.
They might or might not involve some McNipples later.
Okay.
McNipple.
Like
Right.
mixed nipples or a McNipple? Is that like
Could I get a large unsweetened tea and some McNipples?
Take
You want 6 or 12?
Take a Big Mac and
6 count
honey?
McNipple?
Do you want the Mc? Yeah, let's get 2 McNipples. We got a coupon.
Kids? No? Okay, no big deal. Nope. All right, just
Want
the four.
honey mustard or sweat with that?
Kids want a McNipple.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, one more hour to go. Huh?
We're like the Chuck E. Cheese band in here.
So do I just strum the guitar but don't do anything but just the hand up and down, and the left hand never actually moves on the guitar, just strumming up and down, hitting the same note over and over again, and the mouth never matches up with the words.
I'm like the weird rat. I got the same expression
Well, you know
on my
what?
face.
I've got
the
this
whole
chair
time.
so I can just spin
Yeah.
while you're doing it.
It's really good stuff for the video feed.
Those are on video, can just see me
If you're
spinning.
not watching on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, you're missing out on us looking like...
This is worse than
is
Chuck E. Cheese. There's no beer here.
There's no beer in the studio.
I had a piece of pizza, so there was kind of like that. It's left over from Chuck E.
that-
Cheese, actually.
I think that the Chuck E. Cheese band has a particular name.
Chuck
See,
E. Cheese
you
band.
guys grew
Is
up.
it the Zack Attack?
Munch
Well,
Make-Believe Band?
You grew up with Chuck E. Cheese band. I
grew
grew
up
up with
with
something called
Showbiz.
Showbiz Pizza
I grew up
Band.
Showbiz, yeah.
Yeah, the big gorilla.
Yep. I had Showbiz over there.
Showbiz
is that off
Pizza
Nolan?
Place?
Off Nolan Road?
Listen, boys, I went to the one in Wichita.
Okay,
which
never
was
mind.
where
Sorry.
it was at. Okay.
Sorry. Yep, we went to...
Wow, this is a nightmare.
Sorry. Well, I
You've
didn't...
never heard of Showbiz?
I grew
I don't
up...
think
Yeah,
I've
look at
seen
that thing.
This is Five Nights at Freddy's stuff right
Yeah.
here. What?
I grew up around friends who went to Showbiz. That's like, I didn't grow up at
You went to their birthday
I went
parties?
to friends that talked about
big.
going to Showbiz all the time and driving by it going, I want to go. Boy, I bet, look at all the fun in there. That's a different life. You know what? That's like first class at the plane. I'm just driving right by Showbiz and we're going somewhere else. Getting our hot and readies. That's okay.
It was a big deal if
In
you
our
got to go.
CC's buffet.
Yeah, if you got to drive an hour to Wichita, because it took an hour back then because the speed limit was like 55 or 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And so, which was easier math back then, right? Okay, I'm going 60 miles an hour. It's going to take an hour to get there if it's 60 miles. It's so much easier math now.
Math is so difficult sometimes. I don't know.
And so it was a big deal if you got to go to Showbiz Pizza.
So we've talked a lot about the Chiefs and the Chiefs' loss and different things from that. Part of it has been the Patrick Mahomes and Eric Bieniemy. Seren Petro in the Andy Reid press conference today asked Andy Reid about the emotions showing between Patrick and Eric Bieniemy yesterday.
That thing, I don't think the camera probably showed the reality. It was EB was just communicating, saying, "Listen, we'll get it the second half here." That's what we were thinking. He was explaining the situation to him. So Patrick, and this is what makes him great, is he wants to rip your heart out on every play and every opportunity he gets. So he had taken a pretty good lick the play before, and so my decision was to do that. It wasn't EB. EB was just the calming effect there, and but sometimes things look different. I mean, it's an emotional game. I mean, it's an emotional game. I wouldn't want it any other way. That's what makes it great, and so that's why we all love Pat. He wants to play. There are guys that'll shy away from that right there and say, hey, let's just take it in and go the other direction. He wants to get in there and go. But that's where I come in. I've got to make sure that I do what I think is best. And Pat explained it, I thought, very well yesterday. And let's not change Pat Mahomes, man. Let's not change that, or EB for that matter. Let's not change that. Those are two great men right there.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned this a bit earlier, but what's it say about your locker room that after a tough loss, when it'd be really easy to shift blame, all the guys are putting blame on themselves and not pointing fingers and taking responsibility for what happened? What's it say about your locker room, and how does it help you move forward?
Yeah, listen, I like the locker room. I've told you that since training camp, right? It's a good bunch, Matt, and all you guys have seen it. You've been around it and seen it. That are on this call. So it's something that you're gonna have highs and lows in the game, and now we've got a low here. Losing in the National Football League is a tough thing. So how are we going to handle it? And that's a good start when you can admit a problem. Now the next thing is you got to fix the problem, and then get ourselves ready to go play Tampa Bay, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to start that tomorrow, and let's get better. And so that's our approach.
So he said after the game that didn't know what everybody saw, but the reality of what took place was not that big of a deal. And now after seeing it and seeing what everybody else saw, said the video did not show the reality of what took place in that between them. So Andy, Patrick Mahomes, and Eric Bieniemy have all said essentially the same thing, that kind of overblown in terms of what it looked like, but it was just, this is what I want to do. Well, this is why we're doing this. Well, that's BS. I want to do this. Great, but we're doing this. Mm-hmm. These are the decisions we're making, and it's just really not worth it to have you get injured on a chance for our kicker to go and miss a field goal. So get in a field goal range for him to miss it. So
as it turns out.
Hey, yeah. We're going to go for a fake field goal later on in the game. That's how much faith we have in him. So I get it. You want to get down in field goal range. I don't give a bleep. We're not going to put points on the board anyway. So let's go to the locker room and start over, and let's get 21 in our next drive. Let's put 21 on the board because we've got 14 right now. Let's go do it. Let's go have some fun there, Patrick.
That was a nothing burger play compared to all the others in that game. I mean, I was like, okay, let's just take 4 shots. Take 4 shots down the field. No big deal. It was a small percentage chance they were going to get down there and get any points after second down, I thought. And so, listen, I would say this. LaShawn McCoy might be right in all his tweets, right? The article from January might be right for the Bengals game, or could be wrong. I don't know. But that stuff, I don't know. I've never really gotten worked up, and maybe it's because of my illustrious football career.
That's right, yeah.
Caldwell High School. I mean,
you know what it's like on those NFL sidelines.
Well, we established your football pass last night on Sunday Sound Off.
That's right.
Yeah. And that tremendous 11-yard catch.
Thank you.
It was actually a lot better. I mean, you've talked about it 6,000 times. It's a lot better than I imagined.
See?
A lot better.
I have not overplayed it. I've just said, hey, had one catch, 11 yards, and moved on.
But
that was it. That's all I needed in my life.
I think people that think that's a huge deal, I mean, they would blush if they were privy to a practice, or a locker room, and the stuff that's said and thrown back and forth, and some of it doesn't mean anything, some of it does, and what's said, you might be very surprised.
Can you imagine if people heard what Chris Jones and Matt Ryan were saying? I mean, if they're taken aback by what EB and Patrick, just imagine if you had a microphone there.
You might have had Chris Jones imprisoned. I mean, you might have to take some really forceful action there.
The children that could not hear what they were saying. Oh, my son was crying.
Yeah.
He was like, Daddy, I thought you liked Chris Jones. I said, I did, son. I'm just so disappointed. I can't believe he would do that. What a bad person. I don't know him personally, but that action tells me all I need to know about this really nice guy who goes out of his way for the community all the time and doesn't really get a lot of promotion for it. And anybody that's ever worked with him was like, he's just a sweetheart of a guy. But he may have said something to Matt Ryan, and now everything I've ever known about him is just gone. Son, let's burn that 95 jersey. I don't have one. Let's buy one and burn one.
And then your son said, Dad, you're really bleeping overreacting. He said, you didn't never say that before Chris Jones said it. This is why. It's all falling apart. Watch your mouth.
Now,
you, Dad.
My son's cussing. Dad. Our pets' heads are falling off.
It's from Dumb and Dumber.
I know that one.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent tots and I sent pears all the way up to Indianapolis. Tots and pears to Matt Ryan.
Yummy. Delicious. I love tots, and I would eat some pears.
All right, Matt Derrick asked Andy Reid about Sky Moore's progress towards, getting on the field more
snaps
at wide receiver.
Yeah, so we actually had some in for him this game, and it didn't work out that way. We didn't have a ton of first and second down calls, and that we've got to do better with. And so his number didn't get dialed up as much as we wanted. When it did, the defense didn't play it the way where he would be open. So, but it'll come. I mean, we're into game 3 here now, so or through game 3. So it's his time will come. We'll keep working on it.
Hey, Coach, appreciate the time here. Kind of bouncing off what Pete was asking about the offensive collaboration and kind of the process there. I heard you say, hey, I made the call going into halftime that we were just going to run the ball and get out of there. You talked in the past about numbers and the numbers guys being on the headset as well and analytics. How do you make the decision between this is what the numbers say and no, I'm just going to bail out and go with my gut? Is it just Pat getting hit or what kind of makes the decision there?
Yeah, it was what I saw. And so what I felt. I mean, normally that's not, again, the direction that you go, but that's the direction I chose to go this time.
There you go. So a lot of talk about that. I mean, like there were so many issues in that game. So many. We can spotlight Mahomes and EB. We can spotlight Chris Jones. We can have fun with that about, whether or not that would be deserving of a flag in a game where guys are running around and crushing other human beings and they're all making millions and millions and millions of dollars and the ref blushes at two guys talking who then start walking away from each other. Not like, Chris Jones wasn't following Matt Ryan, right? We can talk about all of those things, but there were so many different mistakes along the way that just piled on and piled on and piled on into where it was like you end up losing a game that you shouldn't lose, that you come out of that game saying you're the better team, still don't think the Colts are all that great, yet somehow you've got a loss on the season now to that team, and you better figure it the bleep out because that loss, while the mistakes individually in the game start to, pile up, that loss can do that as well if you go to Tampa and lose, and now it's, okay, what's the deal? And then you've got Buffalo and you've got the 49ers and you've got some other games that you're playing here soon that, those losses can start to stack up.
It reminded me of the second half of the Bengals game.
Yeah, it did.
Because last night we were talking, the Chiefs made, 10 back-breaking plays. If they would have made just 9 of those, they would have won.
That's right.
We
Yes.
said that of the Bengals game. So much stuff went wrong.
Yeah.
It was a disaster of a second half. Yet still they should have won that game.
Yeah,
could have won that game. They're right there to win it.
So make one less back-breaking play or make one more game-changing play. You hit MVS on the run. Justin Watson catches the 3rd down and 10 ball thrown his way that he drops. Travis Kelce catches the touchdown.
The pass interference to Travis Kelce.
That's called pass interference at the goal line that they end up getting a field goal instead of 1st and goal at the 1. Like
maybe you call it timeout with a minute 5.
Oh, we haven't even talked about that. We haven't even. I mentioned it briefly going to break, but we haven't even talked about that.
Speaking of Bengals games, it's not going to happen.
35 seconds. The Chiefs got the ball back with 18 seconds and 3 timeouts, and they could have. They could have.
They scored with 24, and then Pacheco took his sweet time.
Could have had 59 seconds and 2 timeouts. Andy Reid's decision to not call timeout when the Colts got down inside the 15-yard line. So, football, the offense goes up against the defense, obviously, but the enemy is the down and distance, right? You're fighting against the down and distance. Until end-of-game situation, you start fighting against the clock. So what's the enemy for that particular team? As soon as the Colts got down inside the 15-yard line, the clock was no longer their enemy. Now it was just down and distance. So you can't play that game the rest of the way for, we'll let the clock run out, and there might be a play. They had timeouts. They had plenty of time. They could have got 6, 7, 8 plays off in the amount of time that was there with like a minute 7. When they got the first down at the 12-yard line, there was a minute 7 on the clock, and they had timeouts. They snapped the ball at 32 seconds. 35 seconds went off the clock. That play was an incomplete pass. It's 29 seconds. The next play was a touchdown, 24 seconds. You've got all 3 timeouts, and you end up with 18 seconds left, whereas you are not the Colts are not battling the clock anymore. It's changed. So now you are battling the clock.
And then also, they can't use the clock to their advantage to win because it's a 4-point lead. That's a big thing, right? To where they don't have the field goal in the bag. They don't have that in their back pocket, and then they realize, okay, the defense is calling timeouts here. We're going to shut it down. We're going to downshift here. We're going to run clock here, make you use timeouts, and then kick the field goal
like
to tie it or
Mizzou
win.
and Auburn when they won in regulation by kicking the 26-yard field goal.
It's a 4-point lead. They needed to keep their foot on the pedal.
That's right.
To where at that point, they would have taken a score at 59 seconds or 9 seconds. They were going. They were going to score. They needed a touchdown. So I think that really was a big difference, the 4-point lead, and why the Chiefs should have taken a timeout there.
So much stuff happened in the game that not using a timeout and costing your team 35 seconds. The difference between 18 seconds left and 3 timeouts or 59 seconds left and 2 timeouts isn't really discussed because there was so much that took place and people were still ticked off about the Chris Jones thing, and then they score and, you should have been up by multiple scores at that time. That then it's like, oh, yeah, that 35 seconds would be awesome because you didn't use your timeouts.
And I honestly,
used one of them.
More and more, and especially if you have a weapon like Patrick Mahomes, timeouts on offense are kind of overrated.
I agree with that.
There are so many ways to stop the clock, especially when you have somebody that talented. Not only talented, but he's the smartest guy on the football field as well. He's lot of coaches and players talk about, okay, in the heat of the moment when all the arrows are flying, you can't. It's a lot easier on your couch to make these decisions. It's almost like he's on the couch with us because he can see everything, and his clock management and his game management skills are second to none. And so, use those timeouts on defense.
Well, they've got 5 straight games now where they'll be nationally standalone or game of the week. Tampa Sunday night, Vegas Monday night, and then the Bills are nationally the CBS 325. And then 49ers 325 on Fox, NFL game of the week.
Bring back the normalize noon football games.
And then the Titans are Sunday Night Football after the bye. Don't worry, Jags and Chiefs noon, CBS November 13th might actually be one of the better games.
That might get flexed. Yeah, that actually might get flexed, right?
I mean, flex out the Titans and Chiefs the week before.
Seriously.
To then flex in the Jags and Chiefs because the Jags actually look like a football team.
I think they gave a lot of Chiefs fans and maybe some players just a false confidence after shutting out the Colts, and then they go do that to the Chargers.
Mm-hmm. But the Chiefs also could have shut out the Colts too. It felt like
that's the thing, man. I still think the Colts stink.
The Chiefs' defense was so good against Jonathan Taylor and was in Matt Ryan's grill through most. I mean, we were right about so many things, but wrong about the final score, except for Beards was closest. He had the Chiefs winning 3-2. The rest of us had a more of a larger victory, so him being the closest there has won yet again.
It's a good thing I took the under in our bets.
With his predictions.
Hit, yeah.
Thank you for that.
And the Eagles.
Yeah, well done, dude. All right, we should be.
I took the Chiefs to win by more than they did.
That's okay. So did everybody else, probably. Yeah. But yeah, like we had talked about last week, that I thought that the pressure and the sacks that weren't matching up, that the Chiefs were third in pressure percentage, but the sacks weren't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was the week the pressures and the sacks would match up. That they'd finally be getting the sacks and they did. And they did. And so the defense was awesome. And that's where I come back a little bit, Mick, on I'm not like devastated by the loss because I'm looking at it and going, I have faith in Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and the offense, that if this defense is anywhere near as good as it's shown throughout the first 3 games, and if it's going to get better, then the Chiefs are legit Super Bowl contenders and still one of the best teams in the AFC. And I think a pretty damn good shot of winning the AFC and going to the Super Bowl if the defense is this good.
3.8 yards per play. Yeah, sign me up. And it's so funny. It was the postgame show, I believe, on CBS, the national postgame show. I can't remember who said it. But it's the lazy narrative of, okay, this team won, so their quarterback was great. And look, Mahomes had, 15 incompletions. He did not play anywhere close to his best game. They're talking about, some of the mistakes he made. And then who was it? I can't remember. They said, and then Matt Ryan, he didn't make mistakes. Yes, he did. He made a ton. I get he threw the final touchdown pass to an Oklahoma Stater. There was an Oklahoma Stater in that game that had a good game.
Well, I knew there was an Oklahoma Stater that was in the game that I wish was not in the game.
Wrong one, yeah.
Boy, how about that? How big was Oklahoma State in that game? For one team, Jelani
Oklahoma
Woods, and
State
for the other
determined the fate of Week 3, Indy and Kansas City.
Everybody knew that. In Miami with Tyreek.
Stillwater had a lot of money going in on the Colts. Yes, that's right.
How about that, man? Oklahoma State all over the might be the best team in the Big 12. Oklahoma State and KU.
So might be. Come on.
What, KU?
Yeah, those two. Collision course for each other.
They are. That's right. That's a collision course. They are on a collision course with the national championship. Both those teams are right now. Yeah, I mean, Matt Ryan, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions? 27 to 30.
2 fumbles.
But 2 fumbles, yeah.
2 bad fumbles.
Especially the one being chased down from behind by Carlos Dunlap. Like, you're Matt Ryan. Where are you going? What are you doing? Where are you going? And Tom Brady's doing the same thing this week. I mean, Matt Ryan, Tom Brady, those guys are statues. They went up and they played against Kyler Murray that runs around. They played against Herbert that can run. They'll play against Josh Allen that can run. Derek Carr isn't, Tom Brady, but he ain't, Josh Allen either. And Jimmy G is not Trey Lance.
So I've interviewed Justin Reid already today.
Oh, nice. Good for you.
Yeah, he's talking about his charity. And great interview, and it's going to be a great story. We're going to profile it on the pregame show.
Where would that be?
We'll have a little bit on tonight, and then we're going to profile his
KSHB 41.
His versatility on the pregame show on KSHB 41 for Sunday Night Football. I basically.
Oh, is that on 41 this week, Chiefs and Bucks?
Sunday Night Football.
Come on, man. Trying to help you make you plug the
Thank you. I
TV
appreciate
station.
that.
Trying to lead you to water
But here's the
here.
deal. So we. The story was how just versatile he is, because he is a brainiac, right? He went to Stanford, majored in industrial engineering. He knows how to code, right? He's talking about coding. He put a weather model together, him and his buddies, to predict the future, to predict the weather. I'm like, where's Gary Lezak?
I was going to say, is that where Lezak got his?
He actually said he had a soundbite. He's like, oh, these weather guys get so much flack, but it is a hard job. I'm like, you are preaching to the Gary Lezak choir here. Why is he not here? In high school, because I asked him, I said, okay, now all those analytics are being applied to football, data analysis and all that stuff. He goes, it's funny you brought that up. When I was in high school, my buddies and I developed a system. Josh is just going to be beaming here.
I can't wait.
We put in all of our 40-yard times, our bench presses, all our weights, how tall we were, all our measurables into this computer system. It was for a project. They came up with a model to spit out basically where they would be drafted. And it worked for him. I don't know. I probably doubt any of his buddies, but it worked for him. I'm like,
well, mine graded higher than Justin's, and he got drafted.
So he's an entrepreneur. He is. He loves origami, and he can do everything. So that's going to be the nature of the piece. I brought a ton of sporting equipment and stuff from my house. I just raided my garage, and so we have shots of him playing volleyball, swinging a golf club. I brought a fishing rod. He loves to fish, and so it should be a fun piece. But I don't know where it's going with that.
I like Justin Reid more and more.
I talked with it. Oh yeah, I asked him. I was like, I got one football question for you. Did L'Jarius Sneed steal a scoop and score away from you, or did you steal one away from him? He just laughed. He's like, totally, L'Jarius stole it from me.
He did.
So we talked about that. He was like, yeah, that's the time you don't pounce on the football.
It's fourth down.
Right. Doesn't matter if you muff it and they recover.
Bat
it's
it
your
back,
ball.
do whatever
Absolutely.
it is. Yeah, you can't fall on the
football. He goes, I think L'Jarius thought I was another Colt going to pick it up. Which makes sense. I mean,
even if he was, just swat it towards the
He did kind of. And so that could have been 7 right there. But I think that led to
a touchdown. They did get a
Yeah.
touchdown. That was the Kelsey touchdown. But that would have been an absolute scoop and score for the Chiefs there. So.
Did you ask if he could kick next week?
I didn't. I figured that was a touchy subject.
I think you're right. I think that's a good call by you.
Was there any part of Reid and Tobe that thought maybe on the 34-yard attempt, do we bring in Reid to kick this one? Because Amardilla, as Reid called him last week, missed the 34-yarder.
Well, and that's about the exact yardage of a PAT now, right?
36, 34, yep. So, and Amardilla missed both of them.
Yeah, he did.
So,
and maybe the worst idea for a fake ever. It's 3rd and 9.
It's 3rd and 11 or 4th and 11.
It was 4th and 9. I thought. 4th and 11.
I don't know.
It went into the 4th and 11. Yeah.
He catches that, it's going to be 5th and 5 at best. It's Colt. It'd
What
be
is
the
this,
best pass
Mizzou,
ever.
Colorado?
Yes,
It's
it is.
Fifth down here. By the way, have you seen Luther Burden?
I saw that. Was that a cryptic Tyreek Hill?
IG?
Tyrann Matthew tweet?
Yeah. His IG post, in case people have not seen it, Luther Burden has erased everything Mizzou on his IG.
Every post
Every single post has been deleted on his IG account, and his IG story says what?
Patiently waiting.
Patiently waiting. Because he had all of, and I'm looking at all the yards he had against Auburn. So there was the play in which he did that thing, and then there was the other play in which, 0 touches against Auburn.
No way.
He had 2 touches against K-State, 0 against Auburn. They have played 2 Power 5 teams. He has touched the ball twice total in those 2 Power 5 teams. Now, he got 9 touches against Abilene Christian last week and a punt return. So you use them all you want against ACU. But you go against Auburn, decoy the hell out of that guy. No, we're going to throw it to number 3. Got you again, we're not. We are going to punt, though. Learn funniest best next.
Follow the show on Twitter at J810Anderson, at JB Brisco, at Beards McFly, and at Sports Radio 810. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
I've tried a lot of different things to get these. There's a couple squirrels that keep wanting to eat the tomatoes and my apples.
Oh, I got it. Don't plant tomatoes.
Weekdays from 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We're going to learn funniest best. Mick Shaffer hanging out with us from KSHB 41, presented by Kona Big Wave Golden Ale. Take a break, single task tonight. So, Beards, you were telling us about a tweet with the Chiefs and Bucks game on Sunday, potentially moving it.
Yeah, let me go and find that tweet again.
I have that tweet right now from Rick Stroud.
Rick Stroud, tweet it out. Tweet it up.
Bucks are working with the NFL to make contingency plans to possibly move Sunday's game against the Chiefs and or make arrangements to practice in another city Wednesday and Thursday should Hurricane Ian make landfall near Tampa, Coach Todd Bowles said. My sources, which are my immediate family who live just outside of Tampa, say that they're talking about they will know evacuation plans on Tuesday, they think. And it doesn't sound like there would be any particular logic to the storm still going on over the weekend. Obviously, effects of it, depending on how damaging it is, could certainly change some things.
Well, they have instituted different zones there. So those that are on the coast that are there, there's Zone A and Zone B. Zone A are those closest to the coast. As of 30 minutes ago, there was a mandatory evacuation.
Okay.
You don't get a choice.
My mom should know that because there are Zone A people right now.
Zone B is an optional evacuation, which could turn into mandatory depending on the path of the storm, which is expected to hit tomorrow and last for up to 47 hours in the area. So the combination of the force with the slow moving is what is potentially devastating to Tampa because, as they were talking about last night on something, it's actually something sports related because they were talking about the Bucs game, and is that there's nowhere for the water to go in Tampa. So it's very susceptible to flooding, and they think there's a possibility of up to 10 feet of water downtown. So there's a lot of concern there right now, and they said Tampa hasn't had a direct hit since 1921. So it's literally been 100 years since something like this could happen. So yeah, if it's going to hit tomorrow and last till Thursday, then the Bucs are going to figure out where to practice. I mean, they can't just simply practice. Let's just practice indoors. Not a big deal. Hurricane going on. Hey, do you care about the NFL or not? Get to practice. No,
our indoor practice facility is in Zone B. We're fine.
Yeah, right. Optional. You know what's not optional? Showing up to practice on time. That ain't optional. There was a tree in my car. Figure it out. Okay. Get a different car. You've got 4 of them, Tom. So, yes. We'll see what happens with that, because if there is significant damage, then you're talking about getting to Tampa, moving around Tampa to go to the game, right. Others being at the game that you may end up having to move it. It wouldn't be moved up. It would then maybe turn into a Monday night game. I mean, the Chiefs have Monday night the next week, or could even be Tuesday.
Right.
If they move it to Tuesday, the Chiefs have a Monday night. I haven't seen Tampa's schedule as to what they have after this week.
I wonder, I'm also curious about what Miami's situation is going to be. If Miami's on the road, could this game end up happening in Miami? You'd love for it to just come back to Arrowhead, say, hey, just come over here. The Bucs could practice here all week. But I think the NFL, at least with the COVID rules and stuff, I think they generally would try to find a semi-local option, or at least a neutral site, to not totally flip home field advantage there.
They're not going back to Arrowhead because I don't think Brady's been back for a regular season game in Arrowhead since that 2014 or whatever.
1921, actually, was the last time Tampa had a hurricane.
Yeah.
Hurricane.
The Bucs.
Since that, the world is ending. Brady's going to retire game.
The Bucs play the Falcons at home, so if they have to move the game to Tuesday, at least it would be another home game for them. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't be traveling or anything.
This is the 17th game, right, that they're playing?
Yes,
yeah,
it is.
Yep.
Just play it at Arrowhead. Next year you go on the road to the NFC team, whoever it is.
It up. Dolphins are on the road next week also. So I don't know the specifics of Tampa and to Miami and all of that. But maybe an option if there is damage at Raymond James Stadium.
That's an interesting point. So, all right, 913-912-4810 is the where is Miami? You mentioned Miami plays Thursday.
Okay.
Yep.
So they could go to Miami and play this game.
On the road and also on Thursday. They're on the road the next week as well, so there might be a whole little
They could play this game in Miami if need be. So
no one said that.
We'll
That's just a total random shot.
No, absolutely. That's an interesting point. Yeah. All right, 913-912-4810. Let's get into Learn Funniest Best. We go around the room what we learned from the weekend, what the funniest from the weekend was, what the best from the weekend was as well. I will start with
Does this segment have music now? I can't remember what we decided.
I don't think
we
so.
like that?
It should.
We start with the
music.
Well, Beard said he was just going to beatbox in the background, like he was going to be Dougie Fresh. Dougie Fresh.
Was that
6 minutes?
No,
6 minutes. Dougie Fresh,
Okay.
you're on.
Yeah, I was this last week.
Hang on.
Well, I mean, Mick. Mick likes it. That's. I just think what does Mick like? I think anything that gets us going on LFB here, the sooner the better. Really, Beards.
Well, you're the one that paused it.
You're
the one that was like, oh, what about music?
I said, does this segment have music? And it could have just started going. I don't have brake capacity on this show. The only thing I can do is try to tap the gas.
Neither do I. What I learned over the weekend is that the concussion protocol can actually be worked around if you just say that you're back, quote, locked up, end quote. That no, my wobbling and shaking my head and holding my head was actually just because it's attached to my back, and my back issue was there. Therefore, this is a big game. No concussion for me. The NFLPA has opened up an investigation into Miami's return to play concussion protocol.
Nothing will happen.
I don't know.
Maybe we don't know. Maybe we're not doctors on the internet. How about that?
But
we're not doctors, and they know better than us.
No. There is a rule that outward signs of a head injury is an automatic no return to play. And shaking your head and wobbling is clear outward signs of a head injury. Oh, stop with
You can wobble without a head injury.
Well, you can wobble to the song. Yes, if you're going to wobble with the song, you can do that without a head injury. But, Anyway, that's what I learned. Just say you're back. If the game is big enough, you're back locked up. Brisco, what'd you learn?
I learned this from Will Brinson on Twitter.
Oh, that was one of my funniest.
Doug Peterson has tied Urban Meyer for 5th all-time most wins by a Jaguars coach.
That is all. I had like 6 funniest. I'm glad I did, but that was one of them I wrote down.
Incredible.
Ties Urban Meyer already. Mick, what'd you learn?
I learned that Shane Summers is a KU fan.
Oh.
Ooh.
I was in Lawrence on Saturday tailgating. The A10 tent was 2 tents up on Campanile Hill there on the south side of the stadium. And there's Shane Summers in a KU polo.
Woo!
Wow.
Uh-oh.
I walked
Shane's
up to him.
hitting
He
the fan.
immediately covered up the Jayhawk on his breast.
Wow.
And I said, what's going on, Shane? He goes, it's a complete Shane show.
What was the Jayhawk's name on his breast?
Baby Jay? I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, I did learn his wife's a KU. And
is?
he took one for the team there.
You don't do that.
Well done.
You still don't do that.
Shane.
You still don't do that. You go to the game with her and support her alma mater. You don't have to wear the logo.
I have to wear the logo.
Across your heart. That's your heart, Shane. I thought you bled purple. Turns out you don't. You bleed Jayhawk.
It just helps because if you're a Mizzou fan, it's easier for them to know where to stab you. Right there in the logo.
Mm-hmm.
Right over your heart.
That's right, yeah. And if you're a Mizzou fan, you're still wondering if Luther Burden actually is going to see the football. So, Beards, what did you learn this week?
At one point during the Eagles football team game, Carson Wentz had thrown for as many yards as the Eagles had points. That number was 24.
Oh, my God.
He was 3 of 10 at that point in the game.
Did they have 9 sacks in the game?
That's a good one.
It was... I think they may have gotten to double digits. I don't know what the final tally was. I think they had 8 or 9 sacks in that game at least. I mean, he was on the ground constantly. All right, funniest from the weekend. We start with you, Josh. What was your funniest?
My funniest was Ken Dorsey. Just all of it. One of the greatest clips of all time, perfectly cut by the hand of what had to be some sort of staffer, just putting a perfect bow on that clip because he was still freaking out, but it sort of panned away like you weren't supposed to see it. Just one of the greatest clips to come out of this NFL season. Bill's offensive coordinator losing his mind in the press box, if you haven't seen the clip.
It was so good.
Whoever it was that then reaches over and shuts it off, because that hand comes into the screen and grabs it, and it's just dead at that point. What was your funniest, Mick?
My funniest was yesterday before an epic, historic final home game of the season at the K. You got it started off with Luke Weaver and Robbie Ray in something that I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah, Robbie Ray.
A national anthem standoff. Here's part of the clip from Bally's.
And it is the second ever Castillo versus Castillo. And the national anthem concluded a long time ago, but we have a standoff now as to who is going to depart the edge of the warning track in front of each dugout first.
Yeah, and this is really amazing. I haven't never seen one this long. The team's already on the field. The two guys out there are trying to stand each other up, and who's going to butt blink first?
Ryan Blakeney's at first, and John Tumpain is at second.
How long will they let them go? First pitch is coming. This is one of the best standoffs I've ever seen. Now look at the umpire. He's running them off. He's telling. Uh-oh. He's pretending like he's asleep. Yeah. Look at Adrian Johnson. He's saying, hey, get off. Look at the umpires. They're coming over saying, hey, you got to get off the field. Oh, this is cracking me up. Boys will be boys.
Good for him.
So, okay. So, Robbie Ray, the MC won, but I think it's BS. I think the umpires should take the visiting standoff anthem guy off the field first.
That's right.
Weaver was hilarious. At one point, he was pretending to be asleep as he was standing there with his hand over his heart, or maybe over his Jayhawk there for the anthem. They both played together with the Diamondbacks, so I guess that's a deal. I didn't know that was a thing. That was funny.
Yeah, Robbie Ray apparently still undefeated. Still undefeated. Beards, what's your funniest?
The Mizzou game. Jason, what was your best from the weekend?
The right hook that's coming your way. I already knocked a couple teeth out of Brisco's. Kick me when I'm down. That's fine. I love it. Cocky KU fans. Like, hey, we just discovered that we got football again. Let's all have a little fun. Well, looking forward to Lance Leipold in that Nebraska sideline. All right, so my funniest from the weekend was the besides the butt punt, and besides the Bills fan complaining about an OSHA violation in Miami for the heat exhaustion for the work environment. Besides that, did you see the Memphis Chicks game over the weekend? And
Bo Jackson playing for him?
Delvin Perez.
Yeah, I was tuned in live.
Delvin Perez at the plate crushes a ball to left field. Wind is blowing it at a pretty brisk rate. He gets all of it. Looks up, looks down, starts jogging. Bat flip, looking into the crowd, sort of pointing into the crowd, doing his jog around the bases. Little did he know the ball fell into the glove of the left fielder 5 feet in front of the warning track because the wind was that. He rounds second base and points out to the outfield while he's still running. Still going around. Go all the way around
I
third.
See this.
He gets almost to home is when his dugout is on the third base side, and they're like looking at him. And he stops and looks back and he goes, oh no. And you could see how embarrassed he was. And he sort of walks off and he knows that everybody's going to be clowning on him. But he pimped it. He bat flipped. He's pointing to the crowd, pointing to the outfield, rounding second base.
An F9 trot around the bases. Or
Yes.
F7, sorry.
F7 trot around the bases, and it didn't make the warning track. He did crush it, though. He did get all of it. But that wind was like 30 miles an hour. There was no chance of that. All right, best from the weekend, Mick.
So last night, Jimmy Garoppolo stepped out of the back of the end zone, and immediately Mike Tirico said what we were all thinking, that Dan Orlovsky has company. And Orlovsky immediately tweeted, freedom! And then after that, tweeted a picture of Step Brothers that was that would have been photoshopped of his face and Jimmy Garoppolo's face on it with a couple of cheersing champagne flutes. He was so happy.
That was a 5-point safety for Jimmy G.
Can I go next? Is it okay if I
Stepped
go
out
next?
of bounds instead of the pick six because he did throw a pick six on that play. Beards is next.
Can I go next? Do you mind if I go next?
No, you can't. Beards, you're next.
KU winning. There you go. All right,
Great.
Next.
Here's mine.
Second and 10 from his own end zone. Garoppolo's out of the end zone. It's a safety. Remember, Dan Orlovsky did that
right away.
Out of the end zone. It's a safety, and that kills the play before everything else on the pick.
6.
So it is 7-5.
Sorry.
7-5.
That's okay. No, that's all right.
It's a 2-run home run
Specifically, I thought it would have been funny if I could have gone right after you, but we had to get Beards in first. And but the best part for me is the play was not blown dead before Mike Tirico had gotten Orlovsky's name out of his mouth.
That is true.
He was ready to fire with the slander there.
The defender hadn't even got into the end zone.
Orlovsky's was still way worse, by the way.
So great. He had like 5 steps out of the end zone before he threw the ball. My best from the weekend, home run number 699 and 700 for Albert Pujols. This was my final thought on the sound off last night. Shout out to Wayne Randazzo, who had the call on Apple Plus. We don't have the calls because they would be very long. Home run number 699. He makes the call, the excitement, the historical, precedent, all of that stuff, and then goes quiet for 40 seconds, right? Great play-by-play guy. Home run number 700. The excitement, the number 700 history. Quiet for 2 minutes. He didn't say a word for 2 minutes. The story, Albert Pujols hugging teammates, giving high fives in the dugout. Huge sigh of relief from Albert Pujols, just letting out all this air as, okay, that's over. I got to 700. 2 minutes. Wayne Randazzo didn't say a word. Just brilliant, understanding the importance and understanding the pictures telling the story there.
I love that you're celebrating the play-by-play guy during that moment and not the guy who hit the home runs.
Well, we've been celebrating the guy who hit the home runs since he was 24 years old at Fort Osage.
Must have hit 600 all the way back then.
That's good.
More so next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone wherever you get your podcasts. The Zone with Jason Anderson.
There's one other piece of audio from today that I think is really interesting, but honestly, we went super long in the first segment, and I want to spend a second unpacking this. Is it too early to take a break here, Beards? Or
No, never too early.
On Sports Radio 810 WHB.
That's right. Motivation, Josh. That's what it's all about. Motivation. That's
right.
Okay?
Don't worry. They got participation leagues for your kids. You'll
you'll have kids, and they'll get trophies for finishing second and third and things like that. It's not a big deal, man.
That was wrong.
It was right.
7th or 14th.
Did you get a medal as a coach?
No.
Dad of the year? A little double medal situation?
I mean, I should always get a Dad of the Year medal. Why wouldn't
Drink
I?
out of the second place trophy?
Yeah.
For the baseball, not for Dad of the Year.
We
Dad
actually
of the year
get to take the Roger Cup, not the Stanley Cup. It's just like the Roger Cup around, and everybody gets it for a day. We're very excited about that. No, it's a fun weekend. Fun weekend, except for the whole football thing.
All the football.
Baseball was fun. Let me tell you, the baseball this weekend was fun.
All
Royals.
Levels. Yeah.
KC
the Royals game yesterday outscored Sunday Night Football.
That is true. I saw that tweet. That was really.
There's 10, 11, 12, 13.
Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome.
It's your final scores.
Thank you, Mick.
Thank you.
Whoa, Mick Shaffer?
Talk to you Wednesday.
I've been here for.
How long you been here?
Program's next.
Hey, Kansas City.